Online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Yeah, how are you doing? But first and foremost, you getting a little better there, bud? All right, so here's what we do. You get through the 3 hours today. We do the show tomorrow. You get the weekend, the rest up. We get you back in the studio here coming up on Monday. The show opened today a little different here, just by coincidence. Dan DeLorean wasn't in, but Danger, today's not a day, I don't think, where we wanted funny sound bites and just a lot of laughter, considering we have this serious allegation concerning a Buffalo Bill. Not a couple of weeks, next week. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So you're all out of whack here, Danger. It is December the 8th. We're only how many days away from December the 8th? Let's see. Yeah.
9 times.
I said we wouldn't do any funny sound bites. I'm sorry. That's my fault. Yeah, in Shohei watch and everything else watch. I mean, the talk is that the Yankees could be getting Juan Soto, but what if the Yankees got Juan Soto and Yoshimoto Yamamoto? He's really good, Danger. He's the 3-time Pacific Player of the Year out in the Japan, 25 years old. There's some things here that if the teams don't get Shohei Ohtani, they can do and improve themselves. We'll talk to our buddy who's got some Rochester roots, certainly. That's Jim Riley, Ball Cap Sports, the Barreled Up podcast, which you can hear inside the Odyssey app. That'll be in the 4 o'clock hour. We went with Orlando Brown yesterday. So, yeah, just talking about the Bengals because they're going to be on Monday Night Football. Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy will be joining us for his normal Thursday spot. Last week, of course, Thanksgiving. So we'll catch up with Andy, try to optimize your lineup as tonight. Okay, this is an interesting Thursday night game. Dallas, Seattle, and no Buffalo Bills football, but you want to win your fantasy game this week, right? Andy Barron's will help us out. He's coming up here at 3:25. Yeah, we should say that was planned weeks ago. We knew they were going to take. Yeah, they didn't say, "Oh my gosh, it wasn't." No, this is what they typically do Thursday and Friday. But yeah, this is not good. The Bills have issued a statement. The NFL has issued a statement. And if you haven't heard, there is an arrest warrant for Von Miller. And this doesn't go back years. This is an alleged incident that happened on Wednesday. And Danger, this doesn't look all good all around. Our position on our show is this, that you let the legal process play out. Again, sometimes stories don't appear as they normally do, but on the surface, Danger, this if this is true, well, this is horrible. I mean, this is not what anybody wants to be connected to. Von Miller, we should point out, this isn't the first time he's been accused of something like this. No, yeah, we're not talking about a 6-round rookie punter. We're talking about a guy that you won a championship in Dallas. You won in the Rams. He's a future Hall of Famer. Like just for talking about what he has done on the field, one of the best ever at his position. Danger, sometimes when you see, like we all heard about Ray Rice and we saw the press conference and then things changed. Like you saw the video, like, whoa! And there wasn't a Ray Rice punishment. And we don't have any video, certainly like that, but we do have the police report from the Dallas Morning News. May I read this, Danger? Okay. This, again, courtesy of the Dallas Morning News. Police allege in court documents that the woman and Von Miller started arguing over upcoming traveling plans. It began at 10:40 a.m. on Wednesday in the main bedroom of their apartment. The woman then went to their home office and slammed the door, which the affidavit said made Miller visibly angry. Miller then walked into the office and yelled at the woman to get out. The woman tried to comply, but wanted more time to retrieve some of her belongings, such as her laptop and phones. As she was grabbing them, the affidavit says Miller shoved her and pushed her. The woman repeatedly yelled, "Stop, I'm pregnant." Miller continued to push the woman as he stepped on her feet, which caused her to fall back into a chair, the affidavit says. He then put a hand on her neck and applied pressure for 3 to 5 seconds, according to the affidavit, which police say caused pain, but not difficulty breathing. As she continued to try to gather her belongings, Miller grabbed her phone, threw her laptop on the floor, and stomped on it, the affidavit said. As she tried to pick up her laptop, Miller yanked her hair, pulling out a chunk of it and causing her to collapse. She got up and began to record Miller on her phone, which she put in her pocket. This is according to, again, the police affidavit. The affidavit says that Miller once again grabbed the woman, pushed her on the couch, wrapped both hands around her neck, and applied pressure. The woman told Miller she was calling police, which prompted him to leave the apartment. Police responded to the apartment condominium and saw the woman had minor abrasions on her left hand as well as bruising on her abdomen, left bicep, and neck that was consistent with applied pressure. The woman showed the police a recording where Miller could be heard in the background yelling and telling her to get out. In her 911 call, she also identified herself and Miller. There's more here. Danger, again, this is just the police report I'm reading to you, but I think it's just kind of, yeah, the affidavit, correct. In Texas, a third-degree felony is a minimum of 2, a maximum of 10 years. Nothing. There is we have a statement from the Bills. We have a statement from the NFL. So you would figure that Von Miller, this is not something his agent would kind of deal with. No, this is attorneys. This is serious stuff. And so Von Miller, don't want to speculate where he is right now, but I can tell you where he's not. And according to everyone, he has not yet turned himself in. Yeah. No.
Before he's suspended, they will owe him the $10.71 million that is fully guaranteed for next season. And I think it's more a matter of when Von Miller ends up on the commissioner's exempt list, which is essentially paid leave, he'll get the rest of his 2023 base salary, which this season dropped to $1.3 million. That was part of the restructure from earlier in the year. And then the Bills would have to avoid, and the Bills would be able to avoid active roster bonuses, which, is chump change in this case, $15,000 per game. So there's a little bit of room here for the Buffalo Bills and a potential out from Miller's deal if they wanted to save his salary for next year, that's $17.145 million, and move on. That's if the NFL suspends him under the personal conduct policy before the start of next season.
Good work, Danger. That's putting that all together. I think in short term, just go back and yes, there will be outcry. How can you keep somebody like this on the roster? Well, guess what? I don't think this is a Buffalo Bills decision. This is where the commissioner steps in for a player at this level. I mean, it is the lead story. In every sports outlet today, Von Miller. What? Well, somebody who, again, coming to Buffalo, there were other allegations, but nothing ever been. The commissioner, I think, will step in as soon as possible, and the exempt list will come into play. I guess the question is, and this is way above our head, and we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but the legal process, whoever the prosecutor is down in Dallas and whoever, they're not on a Buffalo Bills timeline for any of that in terms of when the league calendar begins in 2024, Danger. So this is going to be very uncomfortable for the Buffalo Bills. It's not a situation where we can just kind of move on here shortly. It's going to be a storyline that it's going to be going on for months here for Buffalo.
It feels like an inevitability that this is one, and we discussed the commissioner's exempt list with Matt Ariza, when that all went down as well. And there was another instance where we talked about the commissioner's exempt list with another player, and I'm trying to remember which player that was, Gino. Maybe you can help me out on that. But this feels like the custom-made situation as to why the commissioner's exempt list exists. You don't want him around the team, but you can't violate his contract for this season either, so you place him essentially on paid leave, and he continues to make, by Von Miller's standards, a meager salary for the rest of this season and potentially lose all of his salary for next season if he's suspended under the NFL's personal conduct policy.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the least of our concerns here should be the football angle. It's a zero. Like the football angle this year, Von Miller has not brought anything to this Buffalo Bills team. You can question, why the Bills brought him back. Why? On Von's word, he just has been a shell of himself. And I don't even believe he has a tackle this year, Danger. So if Von Miller isn't on this team for the rest of this season, okay, so be it. But is he really going to be coming back, whether that's with the Buffalo Bills or a new team next year, regardless of the outcome here? It's hard for me to imagine a scenario, Danger, where given what we have today, you'll see Von Miller back on the field for the Buffalo Bills.
I would take it a step further and say this might have been the last you've seen of Von Miller on a football field. And who knows how long this legal process can stretch out. We've certainly seen it stretch out over the course of many months in some instances. Sometimes even over a year in some instances, which again is why the commissioner's exempt list exists. So there are some potential outs here for the Buffalo Bills, but I wouldn't expect the Buffalo Bills to take any sort of action immediately. I would say the NFL probably will step in at some point, and my guess is he'll end up landing on the commissioner's exempt list. This all remains to be seen, of course, and a lot of it has to depend on Miller and his cooperation with the authorities and whether or not he eventually here turns himself in, which we've heard as of right now he has yet to do. So that warrant is out for his arrest. It's a third-degree felony in the state of Texas, a charge of assaulting a pregnant person.
So I don't know if the player you were thinking about, that we had the Adolphus Washington incident. Remember, he had a firearm again, he wasn't with the Bills very long. But I'm going to actually quote Jim Harbaugh, of all people here. Jim Harbaugh, when he was the head coach of the 49ers, had a rule with his team, and that was, guys, if you run into trouble, okay, I'm here for you. We can work it out. But there's one thing that if you do this, we're done, that's it. It's
a woman.
If you raise your hand to a woman, we are done. If it's anything else, we can work it out, but that's the one non-negotiable here. Yeah. And for Von Miller, whoever's in his circle, you had this allegation years ago, and who knows if that was true, but nothing really happened. You're still playing. You're still doing this. You didn't learn from that, apparently, if you're finding yourself in this situation again. So, to me, not only does this woman need help, but Von Miller needs help. And it's a lesson for everybody, because whether this is true or not, Von Miller, who was talking about becoming an NFL GM, who I'm sure someday was thinking of putting on the coat and being in Canton, and who knows, maybe that comes all true someday. Hard for me to imagine that right now because of what allegedly happened yesterday in Dallas.
Yeah, this is definitely a tarnish on his legacy. And it was kind of interesting how through some of the allegations that he had while he was with the Broncos, that those all kind of got swept under the rug or forgotten about. And Von Miller wants to be taken seriously as a future executive in the NFL. And Von Miller is endorsing insurance companies with Stephon Diggs. I don't know that we're going to see that commercial again anytime soon. I'd be shocked if we saw it, starting tonight with the start of Week 13 or at any point through the course of this weekend's action. It feels like that would be a little bit ill-fated. But the reality here is a lot of these guys have checkered past. We don't hear all of the stories. Some of the stories do get swept under the rug. Some of their transgressions never come to light. The more serious ones, obviously, as this is, they're going to command a larger headline, a bigger amount of attention, and I think a bigger ramification because of all of that.
It's for like this season, can this get much worse? I mean, like, this is just great, fantastic. Like, this isn't just like a guy getting arrested or a warrant out for his arrest. This is Von Miller. This is a team captain.
Think about everything that's gone on with Sean McDermott's defense here this week. you've got this situation off the field. And I'm not saying that McDermott has to be a father to these guys and hold everyone accountable for what they do all of the time. But, I'm not forgetting that you had an incident with one of your players pushing a fan. You've got turmoil within the organization right now. You fired your offensive coordinator just a few weeks ago. I mean, it is a great time for a bye week for the Buffalo Bills. I'm skeptical as to how they can respond to this in any sort of positive way the rest of the season. I mean, it feels like, let's get through the bye week and then let's get this over with. I mean, for all of the adversity that they had to deal with last year and the way that they handled that adversity last year, you would think that it would prepare them to be able to battle through the adversities of this year. This year just feels sloppy, undisciplined, and that's on and off the field. And that probably stems back to partially last year as well with some of the key players and star players in that locker room. But we can't get through this fast enough at this point, right, Gene?
Yeah, well, we talked to Matt Perino on Tuesday, as we normally do, and I asked him a question. I think it's more of a hockey thing, Danger, like, hey, the coach, did he lose the locker room? And then, the coach will get fired. It's football, it's a little different. In football, you have 53 agendas and maybe more, so really that kind of, we've seen players quit, Todd Bowles with the Jets, for instance, but Perino said, no, not at all. This is a team that's still fighting and everything else. I'm just wondering, when one of your team captains finds himself in this situation, now you're going to Kansas City. And, could the Chiefs win? Of course they could win. They're the defending champs. Now you're 6-7 coming back against Dallas. Oh, my gosh. Now the wheels are coming off here for this team. And so whereas the cycle of a Bills fan, like, oh, terrible loss. And then you start to think about it a little bit. And, well, if they pull it off in Kansas City, then they're 7-6 and right in the hunt. It just feels like this is not meant to be for this team this year. And again, I don't even feel like we should be talking about like this allegation is that serious. I feel kind of skeevy talking about wins and losses for the Buffalo Bills,
or the ramifications for the organization. And you want to first and foremost hope that the person who the victim here was is okay. And God, a pregnant woman, his girlfriend allegedly, like this is a real bad spot for Von Miller that he's put himself in with these allegations that have come out of Dallas this morning. So we'll keep you posted on that throughout the course of the afternoon here. If anything breaks, if we hear that Von Miller has turned himself in, if we hear anything of the like, you'll be the first to hear it here on the Fan Rochester. We shift gears to Week 13 of the NFL next, and we talk some fantasy football with our buddy Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy. We'll help set your Week 13 lineup and get you a winner next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
News out of Dallas today. An arrest warrant has been issued for Buffalo Bills defender Von Miller. Miller is accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. This allegedly happening at Miller's home in Dallas yesterday. The Buffalo Bills and the NFL have both issued statements saying they are aware of the situation. Miller has yet to turn himself in. Week 13 of the NFL season begins tonight. It is Dallas and Seattle. We'll talk some fantasy football coming up next. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy will join us here in the Sports Bar. Buffalo Sabres looking to make it 2 in a row tonight as they are in St. Louis. Our coverage on the Fan will begin at 7 o'clock. Once again, it'll be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in goal for Buffalo. Rochester Americans, they begin their road trip tomorrow night, first of 2 in Belleville. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
All right, welcome back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Week 13 in the NFL gets underway tonight. We're talking about Dallas. We'll shift gears from talking about what happened to Von Miller in Dallas, and we'll focus on the football field action between the Cowboys and the Seahawks coming up on Prime tonight. We welcome in Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy Sports to help set your lineups and get a winner in Week 13. Andy, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Good to get caught up with you and excited for a game on Thursday night that has some ramifications and should be wildly entertaining.
Yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. Hope everybody out there had a good holiday as well. It's almost weird. Like the Bears aren't playing this week. They're not in prime time this week. That's weird. We get like an actual ostensibly competitive game between two great teams. A pretty easy game for fantasy purposes. Not a lot of open questions here, right? You know what to do with the stars from Seattle and Dallas. So it's kind of a sit back and enjoy contest.
Yeah, I guess maybe if you had the handcuff named Zach Charbonnet, or I don't know if it's him or somebody else, but you're not playing correct Kenneth Walker tonight, but do you trust anybody else in that Seattle backfield, Andy?
The Charbonnet situation is interesting because he is the direct backup to Walker. Walker is doubtful, not going to play tonight. Charbonnet is good. Like you talk about somebody who is versatile. He's a great receiver. He's huge, power runner, great balance. Like there's a lot to like here. But this run of games that he's in which he gets this, showcase opportunity behind Walker. It was the Niners last week. It's Dallas this week. It's the Niners again next week. And then if he's starting beyond that, I think they have Philly. Like, it's a murderer's row of matchups. Dallas is a little bit friendlier spot than the 49ers. Obviously, it's a great defense. But they gave up the big week to James Conner. That was forever ago, but it happened. They gave up numbers to the Panthers running backs. They gave up numbers to the Rams running backs. So you can move the ball a little bit on the ground against the Cowboys. Charbonnet is locked in to like 3 to 5 catches, 15 or more carries. So there's comfort in workload. So I think you can play him as an RB2 tonight.
Andy, another storyline that has emerged through the course of this week comes out of Indianapolis and Jonathan Taylor needing that surgery. Here we go with the reemergence of Zach Moss. What's your projection for the former Buffalo Bill in that Colts backfield against the Titans?
Yeah, I was just talking about Moss today. I actually think, if you think about the scenario where like maybe Jonathan Taylor was going to get 60% of the touches and maybe Moss was going to get 40%, I think you'd rather have Zach Moss at like 90% of the workload than Jonathan Taylor at a partial workload. Moss was great in the first month of the season in relief of Taylor. It's the best stretch that we've seen from him in his career. He was elusive. He's another versatile player. He's fully functional as a receiver. And the back portion of the schedule for Indianapolis this year is outstanding. There's not a stay away matchup on the schedule for them. He's already cooked Tennessee once this year. He had his best game, 120 yards and a couple of touchdowns against this team. So this certainly isn't a stay away spot. I think Moss, I don't want to get too hyperbolic here and be like, oh, this guy's a league winner, that guy's a league winner. But this is definitely somebody who, if he's starting the rest of the way, he's going to appear on a lot of league winning rosters. I'll say that.
We'll be paying attention, Andy, not only to your show tonight, but the injury report for, say, Chris Olave, is he's in the protocol here. So if it's determined last second Olave is out in a game where I hope there's a lot of points in the Dome, Detroit, New Orleans, could be a lot of fun for one of those early matchups we'll be watching. How do you think that affects the target distribution for the Saints if Olave isn't there?
Yeah, this is brutal. There have not been very many players. It has happened this year, but there haven't been very many players who've cleared concussion protocol within a week and just come back the following game. So I wouldn't count on him. And that's really a mess because Rashid Shaheed is going to miss this game and Michael Thomas is going to miss this game. So that's every Saints receiver you can name, right? Beyond them, it's A.T. Perry, it's Lynn Bowden. It's not great. Perry is probably the guy that I would take a shot with. He's huge. He's had some miscommunications with Derek Carr already. Like, Derek Carr has been visibly frustrated with him already. He's a rookie. But he's also found the end zone once. If I absolutely had to start a Saints receiver, Perry is probably the guy. Realistically, I think the game plan this week is Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, Juwan Johnson, and those are the guys you can probably trust. Kamara, it's a blow-up spot for him. Not going to be surprising at all if he catches 10 passes here.
Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy Sports joining us in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. Rochester and Andy. It isn't the sexiest of matchups. It's not like a rivalry as old as time, but there is something compelling to me about the Browns and the Rams. And maybe it's just because I saw cross my ticker, speaking of the concussion protocol, that DTR might not clear, and we could actually see Joe Flacco starting for the Browns late in that late afternoon window against the Rams. If that happens, I mean, is this like a Jerome Ford spot that you could potentially circle?
I love that that's what excited you about this game.
Joe Flacco.
I will tell you, we probably need the Rams to do a little bit of winning and stay alive in the playoff hunt because they've got a couple of difficult matchups coming up. They've got Cleveland this week, obviously Cleveland, a great defense, and then they've got the Ravens. So these are two very messy spots for the Rams. We need Cooper Kupp to get healthy and to really be Cooper Kupp in the weeks that matter most for fantasy purposes. And I'm afraid that we're headed to a potential shutdown for some Rams stars if they fall out of the playoff race. So I need them to get a win. I would like to see that happen. Secondly, this is a big mess of a game, right? We got a bunch of injured and semi-injured players in this one. Stafford himself is coming off a terrific game, 4 touchdown passes, and none of them went to wide receivers. So all the Nakua managers are mad. The Cup managers are mad. But Stafford's playing pretty well. We've got Myles Garrett banged up, probably playing through it. I think Ford is far and away the safest start on the Cleveland side, right? It's not that it's a spectacular matchup against the Rams, but Ford has been very good, always passes the eye test. There's always a big play out there somewhere, and they're feeding him, and they're going to have to feed him if Joe Flacco or Walker or literally anybody on that team is at a quarterback. It's a messy quarterback situation right now. So Ford is going to get fed. I don't trust any of the Browns receivers. I kind of trust Puka Nacua because his volume has been very consistent. And I'm kind of wait and see with Cooper Kupp because even though he played last week, he was clearly hurting. He was limping immediately in that game. So if you have a viable alternative there, I would play him.
Yeah, and Andy, no hesitation on Kyron Williams, right? I mean, even though you're going up against that Browns defense, you're starting him based on that performance last week, no matter what.
Yeah, listen, we got 6 teams on bye, and that guy's coming off a monster game, and he's had big games in situations where he hasn't even been particularly efficient on the ground because they get in goal-to-go situations and they feed the running back. So I would absolutely trust Kyron here. On volume alone, I think he's a top 12 running back.
Of all the early matchups here, Andy, as far as which one might be the most competitive, how about Denver and Houston? Like, the winner of this game will hold the head-to-head tiebreaker, and for Houston, looks like they're going to get Tank Dell back. For Denver, I mean, we all point to the 70-point game against Miami, but are we still comfortable starting everyone against this Denver defense here, Andy?
Yeah, Denver's defense has obviously corrected to an extent, but it's mostly been against the pass. You can throw out the Miami game when I think the Dolphins backs, did they have 8 touchdowns in that game? This was a crazy total, right? Like the Dolphins backs went wild. You can literally throw out that game and they still look terrible. They're still one of the worst defenses against the run in the NFL. They haven't fixed everything. I think Singletary is still in play here, even though the Denver defense is a little bit better. It is, as you say, like it is low key one of the games of the week. It is a big problem for the team that loses this game, and the team that wins this game has all kinds of crazy momentum. Javonte Williams has been good. He's been fed all kinds of work, so he's absolutely in play for you. We think we might get Noah Brown back this week, but it's a little complicated because we finally have the entire receiving core together. I would expect Tank Dell to play. I would expect Nico Collins to play if Brown plays and Bob Woods plays. Now we got the whole band back together. It'll be interesting to see what the target distribution is, but Tank Dell has been so good and Nico Collins has been so good that I don't think you can veer away from those two, even in a thorny matchup against Denver.
Andy, when the schedule was released, this was one that we circled in the late afternoon window on Sunday. It's a rematch of the NFC Championship back where it all happened in Philadelphia with the Niners coming to town, and the Niners are coming in as favorites. I'm guessing we're starting everybody that's involved here. There's no real questions except for your projections on just how you think this game might play out, given that the Eagles, while they have the best record, have kind of they've won games. They've all been close games, and the Niners now look like the dominant Niners that we saw earlier this season. Which version of the Niners shows up in Philadelphia on Sunday?
Yeah, well, obviously the Niners have had this game circled for a while since since the postseason last year. I'm cautiously optimistic that we get a game that looks a little bit like, not exactly. It's not the same. It's not Josh Allen and Brock Purdy, not the same quarterback. But I hope this feels a little bit like the Buffalo game, and it's back and forth, and it's just a big old huge fantasy bonanza. The trick with the Eagles, and Hurts hasn't been flawless all season. But he does start every game with like a 1-yard rushing touchdown in his pocket because you can't stop what they do at the goal line, right? So for fantasy, you're always playing, and Brown has been stellar. Devontae Smith is great. Like, there's just not a lot of open questions there. You start all those guys. The Philadelphia defense, particularly against the pass, has been so vulnerable. And that's really the thing that, if anything holds them back this year, it's that every good offense can put up 30 against them, right? It's really been a struggle for James Bradbury. He's actually coming off an okay game, but he's been a real dice roll this season. That team is like 29th against the pass right now. They've given up 23 passing touchdowns. So huge week for Brock Purdy, I would expect. He's my QB4, which feels a little bit weird because he's often a low volume quarterback, but I don't see how they cover Ayuk and Samuel and Kittle. I don't think it happens. And then McCaffrey is obviously, you don't think twice with him.
Andy, do we, if you are somebody who is positioning yourself for a playoff run, maybe to the championship game, and you have Philadelphia Eagles on your roster, the Bills could have done everybody a favor by actually winning this game.
Right.
Are you at all concerned? Should you already be thinking about, all right, let me think about a scenario where the Eagles, by the time Week 17 comes around, maybe they've already locked up the number 1 seed?
Yeah, no, we want, just for pure selfish fantasy purposes, especially if your season goes all the way through Week 18, we want the Niners to win. Not everybody wants to hear that, but right now the Eagles are 2 games clear of the rest of the NFC. That's not an ideal scenario. Of course, you wouldn't expect them to sit players 2 weeks in a row, right? I don't think that they would sit anybody in Week 17, but could they really dial it back? Yeah, that could happen. So that's definitely out there as a possibility. We need either the Eagles to lose a game somewhere along the line, or we need the Lions to, right the ship and pile up some wins.
Andy, I'd like to send a holiday fruitcake to any fantasy football manager who invested in the Green Bay Packers backfield during draft season, because it's been an absolute mess. It's been an absolute disaster. And now you've got, both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones on the injury report heading into a game, and no less on Sunday night, so we won't really know the status until late, and they're hosting the Chiefs. But the Packers did look impressive against the Lions on Thanksgiving. Tell us a little bit about what you know from that backfield and how you see that Sunday night matchup playing out.
Yeah, I'd be a little surprised if Dylan didn't play because he played through the same injury last week. Not a particularly explosive player. Well, when he gets going in one direction, he's really fun, and he can pack a punch at the end of a run. But he's also not like a change of direction guy, and they pretty desperately miss what Aaron Jones can bring to the table. I would not expect to see Aaron Jones because that's an MCL sprain, and I would think that that's going to be multiple weeks. Hopefully he gets back before the end of the year, but I wouldn't expect to see him. I feel like the Packers story is, and I don't like the way the national discourse has gone around Jordan Love because every week it's either, oh gosh, they have to draft their next quarterback, this guy ain't it, or it's, oh man, this guy is next in line after Favre and Rodgers, right? Like maybe he's just good. Maybe he's just a good young player having a good season who deserves another season. Like I kind of feel like that's where we should be at with Jordan Love. I will say that he has cleared an important bar fantasy-wise, which is if you give him a good matchup, he can smash. Like these last 3 weeks have been really good. And he's made many more good plays than bad. And I think we now have full confidence that if you put even a neutral matchup in front of him, he's a guy we can start in fantasy. We're going to learn a little bit against the Chiefs this week because that's a frisky defense and they'll get after you. And, this is the toughest defense that he faces the rest of the way. But after this, that's a good group of receivers. Not perfect, but good. I think Love is one of those guys who can deliver, 4 straight multi-touchdown games down the stretch and can really help you win games in fantasy.
Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, is our guest here. Andy, last one from me, and it regards to, all right, probably you lost out on Zach Moss, but maybe you're kind of still looking at, boy, what is out there right now that it could help the back end of my roster. I want to ask you about 2 players, and what sparked my mind here was Jaden Reed. Is this for real? And right now, if he's still available, is that a worthy pickup? And then you wrote about Dearness Johnson in Jacksonville. What about Johnson is insurance there?
Yeah, I think this is the point in the season, and I'm not somebody who's big on draft day taking the backup to your primary running back. I don't think that's a good idea because in practice you always end up dropping that guy. He's the easiest drop on your roster. You never hold on to him. But when we get to this point in the season, it's all about building the best possible starting lineup. And your depth matters a lot less. And so when I'm in a situation where I think that maybe I think Dearness Johnson's in that club and I think Elijah Mitchell's in that club and Rico Dowdle in Dallas, there's a handful of backup running backs who I genuinely think would step into something close to the full workload if the starter ahead of them went down. You should just go get those guys. It's pretty clearly Dearness Johnson in Jacksonville, and hopefully nothing happens to Travis Etienne. We don't need to think about Dearness Johnson, but this is the time of year to go grab those guys as an insurance policy. And as to your question with Jaden Reed, that guy actually leads the Packers in receiving yards right now. He is. We can make a case that is their number one receiver. Jordan Love, the one thing that hasn't gone well for Jordan Love this year until last week are throws to Christian Watson. His passer rating on passes directed toward Watson is 58. It's really bad. But Reed has been spectacular. Reed, we're going on 6 touchdowns now. Again, leading the team in receiving yards. I think he should be the most heavily rostered Packers receiver, and we're not even close to that. He's still available in 40% of Yahoo leagues.
Andy, your insight is so valuable and always welcome here in the Sports Bar. We really appreciate you giving us time before we get to tonight's game. Let our audience know a little bit about what you're working on here so that we can check you out and make sure that we have our lineup set, finalized, and ready to go for a win.
Oh, yeah, we have a big Thursday night pregame show coming up tonight. Fantasy Football Live. It's 7 o'clock. You'll find it all over Yahoo and Yahoo Sports, so please check that out. We'll run through a bunch of sit-start questions, all the information you need to know for Week 13. But thanks, guys. This has been fun as always.
Yeah, and both of you two should be very happy that the Bears had that exciting win on Monday. You didn't think I would
put that team in football.
Yeah,
Andy,
hot right now.
Andy, I don't know what's more sad: 35 bubble screens or a defense that can't scheme to stop 35 bubble screens.
Oh gosh, that's a great question. It felt like one of the old Tyson Bagent game plans, right? I have no idea why you would do that with Justin Fields, but hey, it worked. Again, all the momentum going into the bye. Hottest team in the game.
Enjoy tonight, Andy. Thanks for the time as always, bud.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
There he is, Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy Sports. You had to bring it up. You just had to take the knife, twist it in.
No, we haven't talked since then, dude.
I know.
That was like
I
thankfully.
Why do you think I've been sick all week, Gene? Why do you think I've been sick all week? I had to watch that abomination in primetime on Monday night. 35 bubble screens. I want to say his average depth of target or his average depth of pass was less than a yard for Justin Fields. And again, I don't know what's more sad, that or Brian Flores not being able to scheme a defense that can stop that. And not that they did anything. They didn't get any touchdowns, so I guess they did technically stop that, but just a pathetic loss for the Vikings. And
listen, the rest of us, dude, we're flipping over to the Sabre game. Like, wait a second, they're beating the Rangers. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like into that, and then and the other thing my takeaway is thank you to whoever put the final play of that game to Yakety Sax. That's just the embodiment of that game. Anything to Yakety Sax is going to make me laugh.
Always. Well, tonight you have a similar opportunity. Although I think that the primetime matchup tonight in the NFL is a little bit better than what we had on Monday night with the Cowboys hosting the Seahawks and the Sabres taking on our mouth breathers at 8 o'clock tonight. They'll be taking on the Blues. So, no shortage of action tonight. We're here to talk about all of it. And then there's action off the field, off the rink, all of that we have to get to as well. Yes, the Von Miller news from today. That's our lead story and something that we're going to continue to discuss here as we move on in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. We'll also be joined later by Jim Riley from Ballcap Sports. We'll get a little off-season update in Major League Baseball.
Ooh, he's got something here today, and he's retrieving this report from a local radio guy from an ESPN radio affiliate. Want to take a guess who Riley is saying the three finalists are for Shohei Ohtani?
I'm going to go Dodgers, Giants, Cubs.
You got two of the three.
Okay.
Dodgers, Cubs, and I said this team way back when. The Jays.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that?
You would crush in Toronto. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, that would be great.
It'd be a lot of fun. Before we get to Riley, before we get to the Von Miller news here, we've got some takes on tap in the sports bar. It's time for I'll Drink to That, Gino.
Yeah, this is not only a great time for the NFL, it's for college football. So I have not one, but two takes. And one take, and this is this is just proof that we really don't pay as close attention to college football as we do to the NFL, because the storyline, when I throw you this stat, you're going to be like, oh, I didn't even realize that.
There's and I know one of your takes and one of the guys you're going to talk about here coming up, and I'll drink to that is somebody that I was going to bring up as well, just because I saw some news around this college athlete earlier today. It makes me scratch my head, and I know that things in college athletics have changed forever, and they will never be the way they were. And I don't know that the way they were was better than what it is now, but some of these guys just feel like they might be extending their welcome a little bit, or holding on to the dream just a little bit too tightly. We're going to have Uncle Rico starting at quarterback for some of these programs before it's all said and done if we don't watch ourselves here. We'll get to I'll Drink to That and some takes on tap on the way next in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. First, let's talk about that Week 13 kickoff tonight. Get ready to start the NFL week off the right way. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner
AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports Update.
An arrest warrant has been issued for Buffalo Bills linebacker Von Miller. Miller is accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. It's allegedly happening at Miller's home in Dallas yesterday. The Buffalo Bills and the NFL have both issued statements saying that they are aware of the situation. Miller has yet to turn himself into authorities. Week 13 begins tonight. It's Dallas and Seattle on Thursday Night Football. The Arizona Cardinals have Wade tight end Zach Ertz. Tonight here on The Fan, we've got Sabres hockey as the team playing in St. Louis. Our coverage here on The Fan Rochester will begin at 8 p.m. Rochester Americans beginning a trip up in Belleville tonight and tomorrow night. They're playing against the Sens. We'll have the Rochester Nighthawks home opener. That's coming up Saturday night. The Nighthawks taking on Calgary. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The beer is...
Welcome back on into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia Thursday night with Week 13 of the NFL getting underway in Dallas tonight. But there's a story in Dallas away from the football field that has our attention as Buffalo Bills fans today. We welcome in Gene Battaglia. I am Mike Danger. And of course, all of our regulars joining us at 866 4FAN, 866-4-326. I know we've got some takes to get to, and I'll drink to that. But Gino, since you brought it up in the sports update, let's share what we know here on the status of Bills defensive end Von Miller.
Yeah, so far no commissioner's exempt list, and at last check, to our knowledge, he has not turned himself into authorities. Again, this is a warrant for his arrest as he is accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. This allegedly happened at 10:40 a.m. Central Time in Dallas yesterday. So this is not related to anything that might or may not have happened in the past. Miller, the police report, we read it for you earlier from the Dallas Morning News, includes information on the affidavit. So at the very least, this is something that is going to take a lot of time. I would expect the commissioner's exempt list to become in play here as you're kind of in line thinking here too, Danger. And football for Von Miller should be the last thing we should be thinking about. Again, on our show, we want to say let's let the facts play out sometimes, but right now, this does not look good for anybody involved, and certainly for the Buffalo Bills on the bye. And Von Miller, I would be surprised. Not only Von Miller would play this year, I don't know if he's playing next year as well for the Buffalo Bills.
Right. These allegations are ugly. They are somewhat shocking, but they are allegations. So we're not going to rush to judgment, and I think everybody involved lets this all kind of play out and see what transpires here. For people that are wondering what because there are people that are going to be hearing this news and hearing these allegations and wondering why the Bills don't just move on from Von Miller right now. That's enough, right? Like that's enough. It's not like he's done anything for you this year, and yeah, you've invested all this money, but you don't need this kind of character in your locker room. Well, it's just not that simple, right?
Well, it's not, and he's not going to be anywhere near Buffalo. I can almost guarantee that. While this is all, playing out, maybe not the best phrase, but while this is all kind of, sorted out, and while the process plays out, I should say. Yeah, this is where the commissioners, this is where the NFL should step in. And Danger, like, we automatically go to the Matt Araiza story, where the accusation against Matt Araiza, it was bad, it was salacious, and the Buffalo Bills were gearing up for what they thought would be a Super Bowl run, and they didn't want to deal with it. But it's a punter. Who cares? It's just a punter. Just kind of move on. In retrospect, the commissioner's exempt list probably should have come into play for that, because now you hear the details on that. And poor Matt Araiza, his career right now hasn't been restored. For Von Miller, this is kind of a different story, right? This is somebody who was accused of something like this, but the authorities at that point in Denver in Colorado couldn't find enough to bring charges. For Von Miller, this isn't the first time he's had been connected to something like this. Can we imagine, Danger, what it's going to look like tonight or tomorrow, where the Buffalo Bills, Von Miller turns himself in? We're going to have a mugshot of the team captain? This season, I don't even feel like talking Buffalo Bills football today in the light of this news here. So for Von Miller, I think he's played his last game for Buffalo, and I don't know if he's going to play in this league again.
Yeah, and for anybody that would say, oh, well, he, of course he's not going to play again. Look what he's done off the field. There are teams that obviously will bypass everything that's happened off the field and potentially offer ginormous amounts of money to players just to give a spark of hope. See the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. What does this mean for the Bills from a financial standpoint? Because we know how much money is tied into Von Miller and his contract. So for next season, the 2024 season, he has a salary on the books of $17.145 million, all of it guaranteed for injury, and of that amount, $10.71 million is fully guaranteed. The rest of that becomes fully guaranteed in March of 2024. That's an important deadline to keep in mind here, because Miller's contract does allow the Bills to void the guarantees if he's suspended by the NFL under the personal conduct policy, and these allegations would certainly fall under that personal conduct policy as violations of that personal conduct policy. So the Bills would need a suspension to be imposed here before the start of next season, the 2024 league year, so that the guarantees could be voided, and then you could release Miller at that time. So it's not as easy as just saying, well, he's alleged to have done these horrible things. Why don't they just move on from him? You wait and let this play out, and if the NFL steps in and suspends prior to March of 2024, prior to the start of the new league year, you can release him then. If you cut him before that, if you do the rash thing and you just get rid of him now, you'll still owe him the $10.71 million that's fully guaranteed for 2024. Now, if Miller lands on the commissioner's exempt list, which is essentially paid leave, he gets the remainder of his base salary from this year, which was minimal for Von Miller by his standards. It dropped down to $1.3 million as part of the restructuring that he had earlier this year. And then the Bills would avoid active roster bonuses in the amount of $15,000 per game, which is chump change if you're Von Miller. So the Bills have themselves a way out from the Miller deal, and they have themselves a way out from Von Miller entirely if they want to save that just over $17 million to move on. But the NFL needs to suspend him under the personal conduct policy before the start of the next league year.
Which, again, this is now going way above our head here a little bit, we got to admit, but I would think that in order to suspend him under the personal conduct policy, he has to actually be found guilty of something first here, Danger, and I don't think the timeline matches up there. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think that any prosecutor is going to be beholden to what the Buffalo Bills needs are here in terms of a salary cap. That should be the last concern of a prosecutor, I would think, when they're trying to figure out what's right and wrong. I'm looking through the Bills' website. It looks Von Miller is still listed on the roster here right now as he has to be, but I would be surprised if you went to the Bills team store to see a number 40 jersey be anywhere. I would imagine retailers right now, as we're getting to the holiday season, imagine you're going to the big box store. I would think that number 40s you're taking off the shelf. I would think that you're never going to see that commercial again with him and Steph Diggs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no more gold suits, no more matching gold suits for Von Miller and Steph Diggs on your football Sundays, which, I don't know, kind of a fun commercial. Nice to see those guys. And, I think we'd all feel better about the commercial if the team was actually winning more games and Miller was actually able to get after the quarterback this season. It just hasn't been the same player coming off of that knee injury. And now you add this on top of it. And I know there are a lot of Bills fans that are licking their chops for the team to cut bait with Von Miller. We let it play out. We kind of follow along. We keep you updated as we learn more. But as of right now, Von Miller has yet to turn himself in. If that happens, we'll let you know. And if any action is taken by the NFL or by the team, we'll certainly pass that along as well.
Yeah, we've got our buddy Jim Riley. He hosts the Barreled Up podcast inside the Odyssey app. As He is saying a source 3 finalists for Shohei Ohtani. We'll get to that in a little bit. He'll be coming up here at the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, we've got takes here on tap. And I want to start with college football. I got a pop quiz for everybody. Okay, ready, go. Who had more wins this season, Dino Babers or Deion Sanders?
Well, I know one's going to a bowl game and one isn't.
Well, Babers got fired.
Yeah.
He ended up with 5. If you weren't paying attention, Deion Sanders wound up with 4. Yeah, a lot of people not paying attention to the storyline after starting 3-0, and it was a fun story, right? Well, the bus flamed out at 1-8, and sure, injuries. A really tough conference, right? We didn't expect the Pac-12 in the last year of the Pac-12 to be this good. And mind you, it is a new coach. It is a new program. It takes time.
Right, and he himself admitted at the start of the season, while they were winning these games that nobody expected them to win, hey, we're not there. We don't have the talent that these programs have. We still need a good 7, 8, 9 different difference makers on either side of the ball to be where we want to be.
Yeah, for why I'm bringing this up today, and Sports Illustrated is a shell of what it used to be. I don't even it's shameful. But today they named their sports person of the year, and it's Deion Sanders. For what? For 3 weeks of fun in the fall? For taking a new job? Look, I want to see, Danger, what Sanders does in year 2. I think Sanders can lead this team to a winning record next year. I want to see how he uses the portal. But anyone that thinks that Deion Sanders is heading to the SEC or the NFL next year, I'm sorry, you're simply just not paying attention.
I actually don't hate that nomination. I don't hate them naming Deion Sanders their sports person of the year because for those 3 weeks, he was the biggest story, not just in college football, in all of sports. I mean, it was such a fascinating time, and it drew so much attention to college football. It drew a lot of attention to a conference that's dissolving, that's going away. And I think it also drew attention to a guy who was pretty polarizing as a player, right? Like, I think you remember Deion Sanders, the player, and you either loved him or you hated him, but he always did it with his own style and his own flair and his own flash. And it turns out you can't really change people and who they are at their core because he remains the same guy, true to himself, even as a head coach, even in a different role. I love it. I love the idea that the guy is doing what he's doing, and I agree with you just because I don't think the guy plays games, and if he says, I'm not going to the NFL, he ain't going to the NFL. That Deion Sanders is a guy that's going to stand behind what he says because he has those guiding principles in his life, and honestly, he's not wrong. You can't go to the NFL and apply his coaching tactics to millionaires and grown men the way you can to 18, 19, 20-year-old college kids looking to take that next step. But if you are one of those college kids and you are one of those college athletes that wants to take that next step, boy, wouldn't Deion Sanders be the guy, the catalyst that could get you to that next step? I think it's an exciting story for years to come.
You can't give the sports person the year for heading a team 4-8? That a 3-game improvement? Like what? Because of style? What impact? What impact? You won 3 more games?
We were all paying attention to college football at a time when not as many people were paying attention to college football.
Right. And now in Danger, I guarantee most of our audience doesn't even realize, wait, they didn't finish with a winning record? They went 4-8?
I'm going to give our regulars more credit than that, Gino. I mean, we haven't certainly talked about Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes since they went on that kind of like downward spiral here through the rest of the season. But, I go back to his words from the beginning of the season when they were winning games that nobody thought they should be winning. Hey, we're not there. We don't have the talent yet, but we will be there. And that's why I think next year they're even more impactful. They're even more must-see TV. I can't wait to see what Coach Prime has up his sleeve for next year's Colorado squad.
Yeah, I don't know. I go to a 1. We'll agree to disagree on that. If I say, okay, well, Gene, who are you going with? Well, I don't know. I think as far as sports that went from like mid-level to, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see that again. The women's Final Four was fantastic. I would have split it between Reese and certainly Caitlin Clark, or maybe just giving it to Kim Mulkey. I don't know. Like that, to me, that. By the way, she's Rachel Reese is back tonight. See, we would never be talking about women's college basketball,
That's
too.
true.
Like, yeah.
Hey, you're absolutely right. And I think that they made a giant step in the right direction, and they have an opportunity again this March to continue to move in that direction. And Caitlin Clark remains an exciting player and somebody that a lot of people in that sport are paying attention to. A lot of people out of the sport are paying attention to, which I think is that is the kind of impact that is deserving of the award. And I think that's why Deion Sanders got that award this year.
Danger, you go next year with your take, buddy.
All right, you got it. You know what? And I know that we've got championship week in college football, and we're going to talk to some guys out there. Thor is going to join us on Monday, and we'll break down all of the action from this upcoming weekend and look at who got screwed and who's going to advance. And taking stock in a few things here as we get ready for championship weekend. The transfer portal, NIL, they've changed college football forever. Nobody disputes that. Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, we'll get to see him tomorrow night. Feels like he's been playing since Cam Newton was starting at Auburn, doesn't it? I mean, Chris Winkie thinks that he's too old to be a starting quarterback at Oregon. And today, I know you're going to bring up Oregon State quarterback DJ Ungalele.
Glad you said it.
Yeah, he's entering the transfer portal, and he's 22 years old now. Like, we remember him from Clemson. He's deciding now if he wants to declare for the NFL draft or play another season at college and potentially push his draft stock up in 2025. And I know there are plenty of instances where a quarterback in the portal finds a new home, cashes in at the draft. You got Joe Burrow, obviously. Jalen Hurts didn't really cash in, but, he went all over the place and ended up in a good situation, although a second-round draft pick. With guys like Nix and guys like Ungalalele, doesn't it become an indictment on their own talent when they don't stick with a team and win, regardless of the rest of that team's roster? Ungalele, dating back to his time at Clemson, feels like a poor man's Kyler Murray. He's got an overbearing dad calling the shots. He's a meek kid who's never been able to really do what they want. In that regard, I actually kind of sympathize with some of these college athletes who are bouncing from school to school and program to program, because we've all had, in child athletics, you all know those kids who just want that playing time, want that opportunity, because the parents, it's less about what the kid wants and really more about what the parent wants.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I think in the case of Ungalele, okay, I understood, things weren't going at Clemson, but what was so bad this year about Oregon State? You could have gone back, and Chris Trapasso, who, by the way, will come to the Three Heads next week, CBS Sport, if he ends up, going somewhere else or declaring for the draft, that's a mistake. If you stay and you approve and at Oregon State next year, he might have made something for himself. So to me, bouncing from team to team to team, do it once, but you do it again there.
Well, what I was going to ask is, what's next for Oregon State, right? Because their coach is bolting and they don't have a conference, right? What's next? I mean, I guess in that regard, I kind of understand, but I don't think it makes his resume look any more appealing to an NFL scout.
No, I don't think that at all. I mean, it's one other note I want to pass along here, Danger, and something non-Bills, not non-Von Miller related, but that is going back to our storyline from earlier in the week. Sean McDermott and his status. Tim Graham of The Athletic has just put a piece out. Danger, do you want to take a guess what Tim Graham, according to his sources, and again, he's a source guy, right? His sources say, what percentage would you put that the Buffalo Bills will fire Sean McDermott?
So this is a speculation, or this is his sources?
This is his sources within the Buffalo Bills. So you got
0.0. Yes,
Zero.
0.0% is my guess.
0% chance. And this is what we've been saying all along here on our show. Is you can make a coherent argument. Danger, you did after the Denver game. Why the Buffalo Bills would be better with a different head coach.
Yeah,
but
I know that it's not going to happen, but I'm sorry. I mean, you don't even have to look back as far as the Denver game. Obviously, the Philly loss is still raw for a lot of people, and I can't forgive 20 seconds and one timeout, but we're going to kneel. I can't forgive that. I can't forgive that level of cowardice when you have Josh Allen as your quarterback. I just can't. And I'll remain out, and I don't care if that comes off as negative. It doesn't bother me. You've seen it. I've seen it. We kind of know how all this works, and that's why we're also saying at the same time, yeah, we know that this is as good as it's going to get, or it's been as good as it's going to get, but it ain't going to change, and that's even more frustrating on top of what actually happens on the field based on the decisions he makes on a game day.
Yeah, so it's just given the contract extension this past offseason tied to Brandon Beane and an owner we really don't know his thoughts right now. So, and you look at the resume, 624 winning percentage, and this is really the first year where, and you could point to many things. Oh, look at all these injuries on defense, and look at like the
right.
Yeah.
Sean McSchottenheimer, he's not going anywhere, and we're not going anywhere. It's fine. That's what it will be, and you'll have that continuity, which there's something to be said for that. I mean, assuming that he doesn't blow out half the staff at the end of the season, but there's usually a scapegoat. I think they already took care of that this year, so maybe this offseason is a little more stable because you have the pieces that you have on your coaching staff already, and you're not bringing anybody new in or moving anybody out. But that all remains to be seen, because you know what? There's still a lot of football left to be played. What do they look like coming out of the bye? Does this team quit? I don't think they do. I don't think they will. I don't think they will quit on their coach. If you see a team quit on their coach, that's the sign. That's when it's like, hey, I don't care what you think. That guy needs to go.
Well, could they go into Kansas City and lose? Of course they could. And could Dallas come up here and win? Of course they could. I mean, that's when things kind of pile on one against another. And I could see the Von Miller, when you have a team captain in this situation, putting himself in this situation, mind you, it's for the Bills fan that says, you know what, I'm out this year. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to say come back in, because I don't know if it's going to get any better.
Yeah, and you know what? The Von Miller thing, in a way, it goes against a lot of the principles that Sean McDermott built this program up on, right? We want high character guys. We want guys who want to be here. We want guys who are going to put football above anything else. And, I don't think you can have an NFL roster completely made up of Boy Scouts. I think you are going to have a couple of bad apples in every bunch. But you also recognize guys who have the talent of a Von Miller. And I'm not going to say that Steph Diggs is that either. Like, he doesn't have the off-field issues, certainly, that Von Miller has, based on what we're hearing today. But you knew, and you had your worries about Steph Diggs coming in, but you can't ignore that talent. Well, in the case of Von Miller at this point in his career, and based on what we've seen this year, I think you can ignore it. And I think eventually, when this all kind of plays out, how this all plays out, it'll be funny to watch and funny to see how the NFL advances, if the NFL advances, and if this timetable works out where the Bills are actually able to walk away from Von Miller and void his guarantees for next year.
Yeah, Danger. I mean, that I know that's possible, but Jay Skursky just putting this out. I mean, and again, it's really premature to kind of talk about any of this stuff, but the idea that Miller has yet to even be arrested, there's no telling how long this could take.
Sure.
And so, any Bills fan that's thinking, just from a football standpoint, phew, yeah, you're going to kind of like, this guy we didn't want on the team next year anyways, and you're going to get cap relief. I don't know. You're really kind of getting ahead of yourself there.
We'll see. We'll see how the process all plays out. We go to Major League Baseball next with a check-in from Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports, and the Barreled Up podcast. Love having Riley. Riley's got some 585 roots here. He's a Blue Jays guy, and he'll share with us the three teams that he's hearing are most involved in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. We'll get to some other baseball off-season headlines with Jim Riley of Ballcap Sports and Barreled Up, the Odyssey exclusive podcast. On the way next in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. And oh, by the way, don't forget, you can join us anytime by calling the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN, 866-4326. The best barbecue in town, that's easy. Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub in East Rochester, award-winning barbecue for lunch, dinner, and the perfect choice to cater your next holiday party. Visit goodsmokebarbecue.com for the catering menu and order form. Check out their daily and weekly specials online or on Facebook, like the Super Slider Lunch Combo Deal. You get that for only $9.99. That's like a sports bar price. Amazing food, amazing price, great beer selection, Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. Modern barbecue experts at 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester, and goodsmokebbq.com.
update.
An arrest warrant has been issued for Buffalo Bills linebacker Von Miller. Miller is accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. It's allegedly happening at Miller's home in Dallas. Yesterday, the Buffalo Bills and the NFL have both issued statements saying that they are aware of the situation. Week 13 of the NFL begins tonight. It's the Cowboys and Seahawks. The Arizona Cardinals have waived tight end Zach Ertz. Sabres hockey tonight as the team in St. Louis. Our coverage here on the Fan Rochester will begin at 8 o'clock. Rochester Americans back in action tomorrow night. They're up in Belleville, Ontario. Shohei Ohtani, who might the finalist be? Jim Riley from the Barreled Up podcast inside the Odyssey app will join us coming up next. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, save half off to Adventure Calls Outfitters. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan Rochester.
All right, let's take a break from talking about all the off-field problems with Von Miller and the Buffalo Bills, and let's shift gears to MLB hot stove season. And when we talk MLB in the sports ball, we bring in one of our favorites with some 585 connections and doing big things at Ball Cap Sports on YouTube and also the Barreled Up Odyssey exclusive podcast. It's our buddy Jim Riley. Jim, we got to get right to the Ohtani sweepstakes here because we know you've got some insight. We know you've got some thoughts. How you holding up, brother?
I'm doing about as great as I think I possibly could. Like, this is the time of year. Like, I just get excited. I'm giddy. It's like Christmas comes early with all of this baseball news. And the Ohtani that you're talking about, like, it feels like it's changing every single day. There's something new going on with him. There's teams dropping in. There's teams dropping out. The fan bases for the teams that we're hearing are dropping out are strongly pushing back. It's just a fantastic. What a time to be alive. I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell in my voice.
Well, let's talk about Ohtani here because there is a report that there are 3 finalists for Ohtani. Mm-hmm. Jim, is this report? How much validity would you put into this report? Number one, and number two, if you do think it's a report, like these 3 finalists, these seem right? Because to me, it seems like, hey, there's one team, yeah, that's the chalk team. 2, where we expect they had money, and 3, like, whoa, that's really out of nowhere.
Yeah, with anything that you hear at this point of the season, you have your own sniffer that you're sniffing out. Is this legit? Is this a bunch of garbage? Do I need to turn away from this? The stench is too, I can't stomach that. So we all have our sniffer out right now. The report you're talking about from Gabriel Morency, who is on Twitter, he has nearly 25,000 followers, which gives a little bit of validity. He's all over the place with a ton of different radio and TV outlets that he contributes to, and he's followed by some very interesting people. So him saying that we have 3 finalists, the finalists being the Cubs, the Dodgers, and Blue Jays as the 3, I mean, there's something to that. And me and other content creators on YouTube and in the podcast space, we talk, we hear things. We don't always tweet or bring to our YouTube channels everything we hear because things can change by the minute. And so we hold on to some things. I got a little bit of a whiff of something like this yesterday. I didn't put anything out. I didn't say that. So maybe he's hearing the same thing I heard, and he's going with it. But there's definitely something to at least those 3 teams. Maybe the Giants are still there. The Angels are still there. Michael Moreno, who I trust, believed yesterday he had 4 that he knew for sure confirmed were still in: Dodgers, Cubs, Blue Jays, Angels. So it's kind of, again, it changes by the minute, and sometimes you have to put your own sniffer to it and make the decision if it smells right to you or not. But I think we are getting to a point where it's no longer 8 teams. It's probably down to 3 or 4.
So, Jim, what about that report right at the end of the offseason that if teams were going to make public that they were talking to Shohei, that they would immediately be eliminated from contention, landing Shohei? Is that true? And if that's the case, then how do we know about these 3 teams? Who's talking? Who's spilling the beans here?
Right. According to that, then they're all out, and he's going to end up playing for the Oakland Bees, the independent team that's popping up in Oakland. No, I thought that was one of my favorites. I have a few favorites. That's definitely one of them. And I mean, I don't know how much we can put to that. That's one of those things you have to kind of weigh out for yourself. Do I believe this? Do I not believe this? Where it's coming from? Do I trust? Have they earned credibility with me? Have they no credibility with me? I heard that too. I didn't put too much to that because there's rumors that are just running rampant and out of control, unleashed rumors right now around him.
Yeah, we're talking to our friend Jim Riley from Ballcap Sports. As I'm surprised that there are teams that are not involved. Number one on the list, the San Francisco Giants. I would have put money on the Giants knowing that they had this little nest egg. So, again, I'm trying to piece out why do we have the report in the first place, and could it be that some team is just not happy that they got spurned here? I'm just, quite honestly, and maybe the Giants are going to go in a different direction, but your thoughts on San Francisco sounds like they're on the verge of getting left at the altar once again here, Jim.
I can't see, from just my own opinion, no information that I've heard, I can't see San Francisco being out. There was a report yesterday that the Rangers and Red Sox are out. And there has been, again, a lot of pushback by those fan bases, by those circles saying, no, we're not. So, whether we believe the Red Sox and Rangers are out, don't know. But we have not heard that the Giants are out. We are no longer hearing that the Giants are in, which probably means you have to make your own decision on this in your own heart of hearts, in your own mind of minds. What do you believe is happening? I believe the Giants are still in. 2 days ago, we got a report. It was either John Heyman or John Morosi or one of the Johns talking about the Giants were prioritizing over everybody else Ohtani and Yamamoto. So that tells you that they were still in it as of 2 days ago. And we have not heard any reports that they're out. So I believe they're still in. Maybe they just don't have the mega offer that these other teams, Cubs, Dodgers, and Blue Jays, have put in. The Blue Jays are I brought up yesterday, the Blue Jays are a serious player because it's not just baseball activities they're going to be paying for. It is also Rogers Communication that owns the Blue Jays, and they could see him as a pitchman to an entire country for their telecommunications, putting more phones and internet service and everything, increasing their market share by having Ohtani as a pitchman. It could be $1 billion deal with the Blue Jays. It could get
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah. It's amazing, and I know where your allegiances lie, Jim, and I was going to ask you why Toronto would make the most sense for Shohei Ohtani, but I think you just nailed it right there. If he gets signed by the Toronto Blue Jays, Shohei Ohtani becomes the most popular man in that country.
Yeah, if I could jump in too, Danger, because, Jim, I was up there for the Jays and the Angels, and if you're not up there, you have to be reminded, big Asian community up in Toronto, and the fact that there were Jays fans pulling for Ohtani, and I'm just wondering if that trip back in August actually might have planted a seed there for Shohei, like, hey, you know what, the city's not so bad. It's
massive, and not only from a Shohei Ohtani, I'm feeling good because my my culture is represented here, like that, sir. Maybe that's a little half-pound weight that he puts on the scale, but it is more about Rogers, and Rogers looking at the fact that, they maybe, when it comes to when they're looking at their demographic sheet and they're looking at the Asian demographic and they're looking at, they've got 25%, and they can see how much bringing Ohtani in could help them grow, because it will just be the whole city. Whatever your nationality is, you're going to love this man, and if he tells you to go get a Rogers communication device put in your home, you're going to do it.
Pretty impactful, pretty powerful, and something we hadn't thought of. Glad you're bringing it up.
You know what?
Here.
I'm looking. I just looked this up. You want to take a guess what the percentage is? 34% of the residents of Toronto, 961,000, are of Asian descent. That to me, that might be like a little tip, because and when we're talking about Ohtani, like, oh, he doesn't want to play on the East Coast. I mean, Like, let's go back to that. Was that ever really coming from Ohtani and his agent, or was that just coming from Brian Cashman because he was spurned there, Jim?
No, I do think there was some truth to that. It came from Ohtani, but this is something that came from Ohtani a long time ago, and I do believe I'm trying to remember all the timeline of everything. I do feel like we have heard something recently, but the fact that here we are, and we're talking about the Cubs being a finalist, we're talking about the Blue Jays being a finalist, and the Dodgers being a finalist, means that maybe his preference would be to be on the West Coast, but the opportunities isn't there for him to be on the West Coast. I mean, how many times do you want? I would love to live in San Diego, personally. The weather, I would love it. I'm not living in San Diego, though. I'm living in Maryland. So sometimes the geographic preference takes a back seat to the opportunity.
Jim, let's go back to a name you mentioned that might be of interest to the Giants. We know that the Yankees have interest. We know that the Mets may be bidding with the Yankees. Tell us what you know about Yoshi Yamamoto and how this all plays out here this offseason.
Everybody, I mean, the New York team seem to be heaviest on him. The Yankees, the Mets. We know that the Dodgers have made hiring moves within the organization that would lead you to believe that they are going to land themselves a Japanese star, whether it is Ohtani, Yamamoto, in a year or two, Roki Saki, who exploded on the scene at the World Baseball Classic. They're going to get somebody. So the Dodgers are pushing hard. The Mets, Yankees. I think it ends up coming down to those three. I still believe the Giants have a good shot at Yamamoto as well. So give me those four as my finalists for him. I think the Red Sox are looking at Jordan Montgomery. I think Blake Snell is going to grab some attention. But the New York teams, the Dodgers, the Giants just feel like Yamamoto spots. And there's the other domino tied to Yamamoto is Juan Soto. And that's something that if the Yankees trade for Juan Soto, because that's a big one, then they're going to have to send pitching back to San Diego to get that deal done, because that's what San Diego needs most. If they trade Soto, they're trading it for pitching, and they're trading it for pitching that helps them right now, which means that's coming from the Yankees' rotation right now. So the Yankees would have to raid their rotation, maybe take one or two guys. Maybe it's Clark Schmidt, Michael King, Nestor Cortez, pick two of those guys. Maybe two of those guys have to go to New York along with another piece or two, or go to San Diego. Next thing you know, what's Brian Cashman have? A glaring need in that rotation. What's the best way to fill it? Yamamoto. So I do believe that you're going to see the New York the Yankees, Giants. Those are my two favorites for Yamamoto. If the Yankees trade for Soto before Yamamoto signed, I'm going to say the Yankees will be my favorite for Yamamoto.
We're talking to Jim Riley. He's your host of the Barreled Up podcast. I do like what the Mets did here, and I want to get your thoughts here. I mean, if it's just 1 year for Luis Severino, why not? Or am I looking at this all wrong here? Is Severino washed? Your thoughts on the Mets rolling the dice here?
I am not a big Severino guy. I don't know what he's got left. I think that if he's your 5, then you're okay. So that means the Mets have more to do. And if they don't, and Severino's their 3, then they're in trouble. This is one of those moves that will only be graded out once the full body of work is complete. And if the Mets go out there and they get Jordan Montgomery, that's one of the rumors that they like. They are prioritizing Jordan Montgomery high on their list of targets. So if the Mets go out there and get Jordan Montgomery, let's say they also get Yamamoto and Severino, add that in with Senga and Quintana, it looks good. It looks good. It's a matter of Severino being a piece at the back of that rotation that can grab some innings, and maybe when he's going up against the other team's 5, you have somewhat of an advantage.
We're talking to Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports. I'm not sure if we lost Danger or not. I think we lost Danger here.
No, I'm here.
Gotcha.
I was muted. You didn't want to hear what was going on the other side of this microphone. I'm recovering from coronavirus. I'm broadcasting from the basement, Jim. So thank you for your patience. I was going to ask I was going to ask about a signing from a few days ago. As we're talking, hot stove, Major League Baseball hot stove with Jim Riley at Ballcap Sports and the Barreled Up podcast. Talk to us a little bit about what this Sonny Gray signing means for the Cardinals and what more they have to do to be considered relevant once again there in the NL Central.
They're not relevant. I love that.
No.
Right. Sonny Gray is the signing, what he gives you. Sonny Gray is one of my favorites pitchers that you can go out and sign this offseason. So St. Louis got one of my favorite starting pitchers of the entire free agent class. So I'll put that out there. I love the deal. What I don't like is that at the current moment, the Cardinals rotation, though it's different names, kind of reminds me a lot of last year's rotation. And I have a buddy who's going to be joining me on the podcast tonight, Robbie Hyde. He put together a sort of a side-by-side with the Fangraphs WAR, and last year's rotation was like a 13 WAR. This year's is a 15. So while it is a slight improvement, it's 2 WAR wins. I need 7 or 8. I need a drastic improvement in that rotation. So they've gone out there. They said they were going to sign. John Mozeliak said they were going to sign 3 pitchers this offseason. They did it before the calendar switched to December. Great. I don't know what the rush was to go get Gibson and Lynn, but they went out there regardless and got them. So they have a full rotation now, but they don't have an upgraded rotation. They replaced Flaherty and Wainwright and Montgomery, but they haven't upgraded. That's what they need to do. They still, and word is they're still looking. They have to upgrade if they want to get back in, because that Central's going to be a fight next year. Reds are better. The Brewers haven't yet thrown the towel in. The Cubs are being aggressive. I mean, it's a 4-team race, and the Cardinals are not significantly better than they were last year, which means they'll be on the sidelines when it comes to October.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to read a tweet written by you. Okay, ready? Here we go. I think Braves fans are going to be happy today. Don't go crazy. It's not Ohtani. Holdups are real, but barring any, it'll be a good day. Jim, what are you talking about there?
So there's been rumors about the Braves and Alex Anthopoulos and what he's trying to work on behind the scenes in the trade market. And I don't have extensive MLB sources close to teams, but I do have a small little portfolio, if you will, or you know.
You have a network.
I have a little bit of one, and what I can say to that is that Alex Anthopoulos is getting close to the finish line on a trade piece that I think the entire Braves nation wants them to go and get, and that's around Dylan Cease. It is not done, and that's why the tweet didn't say sources or anything like that. But what I'm hearing is that they're getting close. It could be today, and that's exactly what it means. The Braves fans could be happy today if this thing can get over the finish line today. They're very close on finalizing this Cease deal.
All right, Jim, as Hot Stove continues, you're doing a great job, and you're obviously really, really knee deep in this, and you've got a lot of passion, and you're really into it. We want to know a little bit more about Ball Cap and Barreled Up. Let our audience know where they can follow your work and get more of your work here, and follow along here through the course of free agency.
Yeah, go, wherever you get your podcast, you will find the Barreled Up podcast, and we're having some great conversations over there. I had Bob Nightingale on last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I have Ryan Ripken, Brett Boone. We've been dipping into the player fraternity, been dipping into the YouTube fraternity with guys like Foolish Baseball and Wardy NYM and Doug McCain, who covers the Dodgers. We're bouncing around from team to team. We're covering the whole thing. The podcast is a great place for baseball conversation, and the YouTube channel is a great spot for live, real, raw reaction to what's going on around baseball.
Yeah, Jim, it's great stuff. Let's catch up here once we figure out where Ohtani will go. And
yeah.
I don't know. I know Yankee fans and Red Sox fans don't want to hear this, but my gosh, how interesting would it be in the American League if Ohtani went to Toronto?
That division. Oh, pray for that division. If Ohtani goes to Toronto, if the Yankees trade for Soto and sign Yamamoto, that division, I mean, why? And the Braves are active. We know the Orioles are good. The Rays are good to do their thing. That division's going to be a bear.
Love it. Jim, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, guys. You too.
You got it. There he is, Jim Riley, the Barreled Up Odyssey exclusive podcast. You can find that in the free-to-download Odyssey app, wherever you get your shows, and also check out Jim's YouTube channel, Ballcap Sports, where he's doing a great job covering Major League Baseball's off-season, hot stove season here in MLB.
Yeah, as continue to hit refresh here, and there really haven't been any new updates here in the last couple hours regarding Von Miller. So once we have anything in regards to, and if you're just if you haven't heard over the last few hours, Von Miller, an arrest warrant is out for him down in Dallas.
Yeah, we can dive into a few other stories from around the NFL here before we get to happy hour coming up at 5 o'clock. We'll do that next, and you can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That number is 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. More next in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia, the Fan Rochester. All right, we're going to get to the latest on the Von Miller situation here, and we'll get you updated on everything you may have missed from earlier today as the Buffalo Bills defensive end finds himself in some hot water in Dallas during the bye week here. A warrant being issued for his arrest on a charge of assaulting a pregnant person, which is a third degree felony. More on that coming up here in a bit in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Danger in the Tank. Gino back at High Falls. It's not just the Von Miller story today. I mean, like Week 13 does get underway with a fairly compelling matchup tonight in Dallas, speaking of Dallas. And there are other little nuggets and news notes to get to here from around the NFL, including a name that was aligned with the Buffalo Bills a couple of seasons ago during free agency is Zach Ertz. No longer an Arizona Cardinal, Gino.
Yeah, and the answer is no. I mean, if anybody's thinking, oh, maybe the Bills should, no. No, let's say no.
You're still holding on to that hope that Zach Ertz would be a good Buffalo Bill? He wasn't a good option when we were talking about him coming here to be an option, and now he's out there again.
Well, what do we think about? Because this is kind of the quiet way for free agency. Hey, my team really sucks. I want to win a ring. Release me. Okay. I mean, like, it seems... This happens frequently now, and Zach Ertz, the latest, where he asked for his release, he was granted. So he's been to the Pro Bowl 3 times, and plans to sign with a contender. I don't know if I had to pick where that contender would be. Their uniforms, I prefer the Kelly green over the Hunter green. Dave.
Well, he has to. He plans to sign with a contender. Okay, well, the waiver process might prevent that from happening. A losing team could claim him off of waivers, and there are plenty of teams that could use a tight end or that have a hole where Zach Ertz would absolutely fit, and they don't have winning records.
All right, so that would be funny. Like, if you're Jerry Jones, do you block Philadelphia on that?
I would say if you're Carolina, if you're any team that needs a tight end, you know that this guy would be an immediate upgrade based on what you already have, then why not? Why wouldn't you go after it? I mean, look, I'm being, I pick on the worst team in the league, but it could be a losing team that places a claim for a tight end who might still have some value, who just got placed on waivers. It wouldn't shock me if it didn't go exactly to Zach Ertz's plan here of landing with a contender. Let's see how it all plays out. And if he clears waivers, then yeah, all bets are off, and he ends up playing for a team that might be contending here.
Yeah, spring football, we love the start of it, but then we kind of forget how it all ends up. But maybe there will be a new improved league coming up as federal regulators have approved the merger of the XFL and the USFL, the combined
league. Tell me who's running this merger. This is the part that I love the most.
It will be former Buffalo Bill team president, the XFL CEO, Russ Brandon. Russ Brandon, St. John Fisher grad. What could go wrong?
Nothing. This is great news. And, Brandon everything went well, right?
He's a fine salesman, Danger. Everything is, yeah.
Yeah. What we don't know yet is how many teams will actually participate in the combined league. They had 8 teams each between the XFL and the USFL, but we know that we will have spring football debuting March 30th, and more to come on that under the guidance of XFL CEO Russ Brandon. There you go. A couple of headlines there, and we look forward to tonight's game in Dallas with the Cowboys hosting the Seahawks to get Week 13 underway. If you missed Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy, who joined us last hour, helped set your Week 13 lineup, you can use Odyssey Rewind in the free-to-download Odyssey app. Go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours. Now, the big story of the day, we don't want to bury the lead. No. It's the Von Miller story. We're going to get into it and dive into a little bit deeper what it means for Miller. Obviously, these allegations are serious. They are a little bit shocking and disturbing. We've got the affidavit. The arrest warrant has been issued for Miller, and he has yet to turn himself in. We'll keep you posted on that and let you know about the ramifications for the Buffalo Bills moving forward here as a team and the league, both acknowledging that they know what's going on, or they know of this incident with Von Miller and his pregnant girlfriend in Dallas. That's coming up next as we move on to Happy Hour in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. You can pull up a stool and join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That number is 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You're on the Fan, Rochester.
Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
An arrest warrant has been issued for Buffalo Bills linebacker Von Miller. Miller accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. This allegedly happening at Miller's residence in Dallas yesterday. Buffalo Bills and the NFL have both issued statements saying that they are aware of the situation. Week 13 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's Dallas hosting Seattle. The Arizona Cardinals have waived tight end Zach Ertz. We have our first ever Monday Night Football game that's been flexed. It'll happen Week 15. Out is Patriots-Chiefs. In Seahawks-Eagles. Sabres hockey tonight. The team in St. Louis. Our coverage here on the Fan Rochester begins at 7 o'clock. Buffalo looking to make it 2 in a row. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to start in goal. Rochester Americans in Belleville tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
I love that the Chiefs got flexed out of Monday Night Football. You know, that Sunday window probably works better for Taylor Swift's schedule anyways, Gino.
Wait a second. How bad do you have to be to flex out Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football?
The Patriots have to.
They're horrible.
That is the answer. Yes.
Wow.
The answer is we don't have a quarterback. Bailey Zappi getting first team reps reportedly out of New England. So this weekend, anticipate some Bailey Zappi for all the Patriot fans who are excited about the Bailey Zappi era to continue. I'm not. That's an indictment on how the mighty have fallen there in New England with the Patriots against Kansas City getting flexed out of Monday Night Football in favor of the Seahawks. Man,
yeah.
That is that's good.
Yeah, well, they're doing this tonight. Like, we might watch the Seahawks tonight and be like, that's not. We were a playoff team last year. I'm not so sure. The line
Are we getting Grumpy Al? Are we getting Grumpy Al tonight in Dallas? I don't know that we'll get Grumpy Al. Dallas is where we start this afternoon. And boy, the news of the day, the big NFL headline of the day, unfortunately, centers around a Buffalo Bills captain, and not for good things that he's done during the bye week, but rather some trouble that he finds himself here in on a Thursday afternoon. We're talking about Von Miller and the accusations and arrest warrant that have been issued for him in Dallas this morning. Yeah,
and I think that what helped us kind of learn about domestic violence and what it could really look like was the Ray Rice video. We heard about it, we read about it, and then all of a sudden, here it is, and like, oh my gosh! And then only then did the NFL. That really changed things, I thought. Well, we don't have any video, but we do have this report from the Dallas Morning News. In danger of, I can read this here, and again, this is just reading it straight verbatim off of the Dallas Morning News website.
This is an affidavit?
Yeah, well, this is the report. This is actually, I'm going to read it exactly, and it's going to quote the affidavit. So, the 34-year-old Miller faces a charge of assault of a pregnant person. That is a third-degree felony. Now, sidebar, this is just me, because I'm like, okay, what could he be facing here? 2 to 10 years, okay, in the state of Texas. As of Thursday morning, Miller, who plays for the Buffalo Bills, did not appear yet in Dallas County jail records. To our knowledge, that still is true here at 5 o'clock Eastern time, but again, maybe that hasn't been reported yet. Back to the Dallas Morning News report. Police responded at 11 a.m. Wednesday to the 3100 block of North Harwood, that's near Ivan Street, on a major disturbance call. But Miller left the location before officers arrived, officials telling the news. Miller is accused of assaulting a victim during an argument. The victim was treated for minor injuries. Now, police allege in the court document that the argument, which started over upcoming travel plans, began at 10:40 a.m. Wednesday in the main bedroom of their apartment. The woman then went into their home office and slammed the door, which the affidavit says made Miller visibly angry. Miller then walked into the office and yelled at the woman to get out, the affidavit says. The woman tried to comply, but wanted time to retrieve some of her belongings, such as her laptop and phones. As she was grabbing them, the affidavit says Miller shoved her and pushed her. The woman repeatedly yelled, "Stop, I'm pregnant." Miller continued to push the woman as he stepped on her feet, which caused her to fall back into a chair, the affidavit says. He then put a hand on her neck and applied pressure for 3 to 5 seconds, according to the affidavit, which police say caused pain, but not difficulty breathing. As she continued to try to gather her belongings, Miller grabbed her phone, threw her laptop on the floor, and stomped on it, the affidavit says. As she tried to pick up her laptop, Miller yanked her hair, pulling a chunk out of her and causing her to collapse. This, again, according to the affidavit. She got up and began to record Miller on her phone, which she put in her pocket, police wrote in the affidavit. The affidavit says that Miller once again grabbed the woman, pushed her onto a couch, and wrapped both hands around her neck and applied pressure. The woman told police, then Miller was told that she was calling police, which prompted him to leave the apartment, the affidavit says. So what police have to go on here, Danger, again, if there is some sort of cell phone recording, and who knows with security footage and whatnot, I don't know, but none of that has come to life. That's about the most disturbing thing that we've ever read here on our show.
Yeah, it's there are a lot of details there that are disturbing, and there's a lot of details that we will never know, that we won't know because we weren't there, we weren't a part of it, and we won't hear necessarily every side to this story. But the details being shared in that affidavit are horrific, and there's no excuse for that kind of behavior anywhere from anyone. And so I know that those details, and that is the kind of story that immediately will make a lot of fans say, what are we doing? Why are we waiting around? This guy needs to go. It's not like he was doing anything for you this year anyways. Move on from the guy. And look, it's not that easy. And while you might be able to move on quickly from the punt god in a preseason game, it might not be that easy to move on from Von Miller, given everything that's invested in him.
Yeah, as probably the next step, if we had to say in the story. And we said this at the time, like, wait for the punt god. The Bills could have easily said, hey, NFL, commissioners exemplis, this is what we'd like to you. But the circumstances at the time were this. It was a Bills team that was getting ready to play week 1, and they were a Super Bowl contender. Okay, maybe they were the favorite actually at that point. This is a punter. We can kind of move on from that. This is not the same circumstance. Okay, this is this didn't have a future Hall of Famer.
Future Hall of Famer.
Future
yes.
Hall of Famer who you are paying a lot of money. A face of the NFL. Why? He's doing insurance commercials. He's saying he wants to be a future GM. Now, there's some things in his history that we can go back over and be like, okay, maybe there were signs here with Von Miller that really we should have paid more attention to, and we'll have time to discuss that. But these are two different circumstances. This time, this decision, Danger, and for anybody that says the Bills should cut him, this is not their decision. This is the NFL that's going to step in and say, commissioners exemplis, go over here, which means for the short term, meaning the rest of the regular season, Von Miller's going to get paid or whatever his base salary is. The roster bonus won't be there, obviously, and that's, as you mentioned earlier, Danger, it's only $15,000 a game. But Von Miller, you take the rest of the season off. Let's let the legal process play out. And for any Bills fan that is thinking ahead here, just from a football standpoint, wow, for a player that was going to cost the Bills a lot of money, yeah, 2 thumbs up. You're going to I don't know if this is all going to get cleared up on the timeline that you want it to get cleared up here as far as the authorities. Let the authorities do their job, which is going to be on their timeline, not any timeline that concerns the Buffalo Bills salary cap.
Not to dismiss the severity of these allegations, but what does it mean for the Bills, their salary cap, their contract with Von Miller? Let's break it all down here. Next season, 2024, Miller has a salary of $17.145 million. All of it guaranteed for injury, and of that amount, $10.71 million is fully guaranteed. The rest of it becomes fully guaranteed in March of 2024, the start of the new league year. And that's the deadline. That's the important date to remember, because Miller's contract does allow the Bills to void those guarantees if he's suspended under the league's personal conduct policy. And you would imagine with these allegations, if he surrenders and how this plays out, that there will be some sort of suspension, given that it appears he's violated the personal conduct policy of the NFL. So the Bills need a suspension to be imposed prior to next season, prior to the start of the new league year in March of 2024, so that the guarantees could be voided completely, and at the right time, you could walk away from Von Miller. Now, if you were to just cut bait with Miller before he's suspended, you'll still owe him the $10.71 million, which is fully guaranteed in 2024. If, and we think more a matter of when, Miller lands on the commissioner's exempt list, which is essentially paid leave, you get the remainder of your 2023 base salary, which this year, by the way, dropped to $1.3 million as a restructuring that happened earlier this year. So not a lot of money for the rest of the season here. If he is on paid leave for Von Miller, the Bills wouldn't have to give him the active roster bonuses for $15,000 per game here for the rest of the season, and the situation would give the Bills a way out here from Miller's deal if they wanted to save that $17+ million and move on from the future Hall of Famer. If the NFL suspends him in the personal conduct policy before the start of next season, I agree with you, Gene. That's something that, look, if the NFL wants to follow a timeline, they will follow a timeline. If they want to rush things, they will rush things. I don't know what rush they will have to suspend Von Miller under the personal conduct policy, given that this could play out for a long time, many, many months, maybe even longer. But the idea that he could end up on the commissioner's exempt list, that feels like something that should happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so the commissioner's exempt list and then the suspension, and I just kind of, again, two entirely different. I mean, it's a very, very, very loose comparison, but Deshaun Watson, if you recall, that dragged on and on for various reasons, and there wasn't a suspension, and the Browns actually made the trade, and then, and only then, did he begin to serve his suspension. But that was a quarterback that was still considered in his prime. This is an aging defensive player, 34 years old. You could say, well, maybe you would have given him one more shot as he's not fully healthy this year. I'm just looking at Spot Track and all those numbers you kind of threw out. If the Buffalo Bills cut him following the season, Danger, they're saying that would be a dead cap of 32.25. Which, if there's considering that nothing of this would happen, so it's
you save that 17+ million though from that 34. I would say if you were to conduct policy. No, because this is the reason why is because you paid the bonus before, so everything would accelerate at that point. So his base, yes, is 17.5. You have to account for the $52 million you paid him in bonus money and restructures up front. So 52 minus 17, what is that? 32. What is it? Right in that neighborhood. Yeah. Okay. So look, it's a sloppy situation financially. It's going to leave the Bills in a little bit of a mess. And this is the risk that teams get into when they continue to kick the can down the road and restructure for high-priced talent. In this case, Von Miller, high-priced talent, who we got to see a good half season of production out of before everything kind of went south. And this certainly feels like a low point for the future Hall of Famer.
Jack writing in, you can write to us on X, our handle, The Fan Rochester. Von Miller has to know there is a warrant out for his arrest. What is he waiting for to turn himself in? He's showing his true character. He is a coward. Jack, maybe we get that news here in the next little bit, but I just want Bills fans to kind of brace for this. Like, your team captain is going to be in a mugshot. Like, could this season go any worse for the Buffalo Bills at this point? Like, this is going to,
You don't want, this is a big story, right? This is a massive transgression in Von Miller. It almost takes a little bit of the shine away from this other bit of turmoil that's been going on with the. I mean, do we forget that just a few days ago you had Bills players pushing fans in Philadelphia, which, let's face it, that's never a good look. You just moved on from your offensive coordinator a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this 2023 Bills team has all the markings of dysfunction. It's sad. Given how much hope and promise there was at the beginning of the season, how much talent there is on this roster, what our expectations as fans were for this team going into the season, to see how it's devolved and to where it is today, with this being, no question, the low point. You just hate everything about it. You almost want the season to end today.
Yeah, it's before this happened, I was going to bring up this article, Danger. This is this was the headline story today on Yahoo Sports. Frank Schwab, columnist. Are the Buffalo Bills the biggest NFL's? The Bills are the NFL's biggest disappointment this season. Who's to blame? And then he goes over the blame pie. I'm like, oh my gosh, does he listen to our show here? But this is now what the national media is looking at. Like, wow, the expectation and where this is at. And this is before we learned about Von Miller. And yes, Von Miller has been a zero this team. Let me make that clear. Like, Von Miller not playing the rest of the year for the Buffalo Bills, and I think that's kind of what we can kind of agree that looks kind of likely. Doesn't matter. He hasn't been doing anything on the field this year for this team. But this is going to have some sort of pall, and for the NFL does pride themselves on not having distractions. Okay, guess what? Everybody's going to be bringing up every day when everybody gets back into town on Monday. Okay, you have to ask McDermott about it. You have to ask Josh Allen about it. You've got to ask Steph Diggs about it because Steph Diggs into the freaking commercial with him.
I don't think you're seeing that commercial moving forward, Gino.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
no,
I'd be surprised.
No, but let me continue my rant, Danger. Like, honestly, like, Jim Harbaugh had a saying with the 49ers, who was the head coach, and I can't believe I'm like pointing to him, of all people, saying that's the way to do it. And Jim Harbaugh laid down the law every year before training camp and said, guys, whatever your problem is, you and I can work it out, and we will work it out together, with one exception. If you ever raise your hand to a woman, you are gone. Does Sean McDermott have like any kind of rules like that or anything? Because I don't know, like, of all people, Von Miller, you would have thought, and I'm not telling tales out of school, he was investigated in Colorado. And whatever did or did not happen back then, obviously he didn't learn from it.
Well, and it just kind of disappeared, and he got off and got away with whatever it was, if there was something to get away with. And it feels like history might be repeating himself, although this time not turning himself in. And I'll echo what Jack is saying. I mean, you put your hands on a woman, you are a coward. And now not turning yourself in, you're showing your true character once again. Jack, appreciate the tweet. You can hit us up at X, at the Fan Rochester anytime. Our phone lines are also open for you as well. You can pull up a stool on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Yeah, we should point out that the Matt Ariza situation, that was an investigation, that was a civil lawsuit.
Yeah. It's just more evidence that in the NFL and within every organization and every team, there's never a one-size-fits-all approach, that every player in every situation is unique. That you can't apply a one. The best you can do is the personal conduct policy, which after it's said and done, you'll find out what your fate is. And in this case, I have a feeling that we've seen the last of Von Miller on an NFL football field, which it's kind of sad to think about, given how great of a career he's had. Super Bowl MVP, future Hall of Famer. I don't want to remember Von Miller in this way, and sadly, this might be the last we hear of Von Miller.
Yeah, I mean, Von Miller, you go back to the combine, he's like tailing like Brandon Beane and other GMs, like talking about how he wants to be a GM one day, and then thinking this is somebody you would want, like as a GM, and the way he's insightful, and every time he talks, all positive and everything else, and
and we don't discuss enough because we don't know, we're not in there, but I mean, look, you keep a guy like Von Miller around because even though he's not productive on the field, he has weight and clout in the locker room, and he's won a Super Bowl, and he's been a Super Bowl MVP, and you hope that some of that rubs off, and that the guys that play his position are all learning from him. The guys like Rousseau and Epineza are all trying to spend time with and absorb as much as they can from Von Miller while he's still playing at the level that, at a professional level, that losing that might have some negative impact on this team the rest of the way out as well, Gino. I don't want to discount that.
Yeah, it's that the details of the Dallas Morning News of that affidavit are disturbing. And if the next step to this story, and again, Danger, we live in a world of, I don't want to say checkbook journalism, but if TMZ wanted to get somehow that cell phone, if that is indeed true from that affidavit that the victim in this instance started recording somewhere during the assault.
Yeah.
That would be as damning as anything.
Yeah, and we're in a society also, Gino, that is guilty until proven innocent, right? I mean, like a story like this comes out and we immediately rush to judgment. We don't have all of the details. We have plenty of allegations, and some of those details are a little bit shocking and disturbing. But you're right, audio or video kind of changes everything and puts a finer point on how serious these allegations are. If that does somehow surface, boy, I think that just accelerates the path as to which the NFL, the Bills, and the legal system works out here. You want to get this cleaned up as quickly as you possibly can if you're the Buffalo Bills.
Danger is in the tank today. As you're sounding much better, buddy. I'm glad you're back with us here today.
Thank you.
I want to lighten the mood here a little bit here because earlier today we talked to Jim Riley, who you want more baseball inside the Odyssey app, the Barreled Up podcast, talking about the 3 finalists. Which he is hearing, and he heard the same thing. The Dodgers, the Cubs, and then the surprise entrant here, the Toronto Blue Jays for Shohei Ohtani. Danger, are you buying in on this report?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. If you're Shohei Ohtani, why would you want to go to a market where you're the second or third, game in town, right? Like, you can go to L.A., but it's still LeBron. LeBron's still the biggest celebrity in that town from the sports stand. You go to Toronto, you are the most popular figure in the country. Not the town, not the country. You become everything to Canada. You become everything to the city, everything to that organization. If you want that kind of clout, if you want that kind of ability to make excessive revenue beyond what you do on the diamond, man, that makes a lot of sense to me. He could be the biggest name in a country, in Canada. He could be synonymous with our friends north of the border.
Yeah, and there's the ancillary benefit. Why with the Jays? Well, they're owned by Rogers Communications, and Rogers would love to have Shohei as the face of their company. And then you what could tip the sales ever so slightly is that, again, Toronto, major metro, nearly 1 million Asian Canadians residing in Toronto themselves, 34% of the population of Toronto. So that Danger, I went up there last year. I experienced it for myself, and there were Jays fans who were openly Ohtani fans. And I'm wondering if Ohtani just kind of took note of that, thinking, hey, maybe this is someplace I would like to play someday.
He probably thought, looking back up into the crowd, he's like, hey, if Scott Van Pelt is going to come to my game, I should probably play more games in Toronto. He recognized you, Gene. He thought that because you made it out of your way, you went out of your way to go north of the border and to bring the family to see him. He was that touched, that moved that you were there. You're the reason.
Did you just go Van Pelt on me because I came home and you have not, sir?
Yeah, you came home and we've got a lot of guys walking around looking like Scott Van Pelt. You're just one of many.
No. Van Pelt is completely shaven on the top. I leave the stubble and I hide the bald spot that way.
Right, look, I'm not paying that close attention to what you got going on that dome of yours, Gino. I'm sorry, but you can take credit for this one. When he signs with Toronto, it's all you. It's all you,
me.
baby.
It's all me.
Because you went and he noticed. He's like, wow, Gino brought his family. You can take ownership of that, Gino. You're the reason why Shohei went to Toronto.
Van Pelt's 6'4", and I'll just say I'm not. So, all right. So, I don't know how anybody could possibly confuse the two of us.
That's exciting news. I love these stories. I love these reports. Hot Stove is exciting once again when you have arguably the biggest free agent piece available in the history of the game in Shohei Ohtani, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to continue to watch. And Jim Riley was great with his passion and his enthusiasm for this time of year in Major League Baseball. Man, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and before we get to shots too, I want to just kind of take your temperature on, because we haven't talked to you in a couple days here, Danger, about really what's been one of the biggest stories for the Amerks in quite some time. We were on the air. It was Dandalorian and I, and wait a second, I see this report come across. Oh my gosh. Devin Levi has been loaned to the Amerks. Okay, now we've entered a world, Danger, where now you can't call a coach fired. You have to say he's been relieved of his duties. somebody's been sent down. You can't even say, no, we've loaned him, because literally, like, just a couple minutes later, Seth Appert, what does that mean? Like, thinking this is injury? This is something? No, it just means he's been sent down at that point.
Right.
I think this is exciting, actually, for Amherst fans. This is kind of a bummer the team is out of town this weekend.
Yeah, it is exciting, and it'll be curious to see how Levi performs at this level. I think, so many teams now have seen other teams win and succeed by kind of riding the hot hand at goaltender, right? You don't have, I think long gone are the days of you need your franchise goaltender, the guy that's going to, stay there for years and years. Usually it's taken a while for us to kind of adjust our brains to the idea that you can live in the NHL with two very competent goaltenders and be very successful and kind of ride the hot hand and ride the wave and manage the opportunities as they come. But something surprising, I think, has happened, and I don't know that anybody saw it coming, that UPL looks more like an NHL goaltender this year than Devin Levi did. And I don't know if that's a size thing or a performance thing, but certainly last year at the end of the season when Levi first came to the Sabres, it felt like the opposite was true, right? So now Levi will get the opportunity to sharpen his abilities at the AHL level with the Amherst, work on some of the details and the finer points of his game. And one thing is certain, there are always injuries and there are always needs for, I have a feeling we should enjoy him while we have him, because I don't know how long that's going to last. None of us do. But it'll be fun while we have him for sure.
Yeah, it's going to get me to tune in tomorrow night. Don Stevens, first of two up in Belleville. Did you know this? And I brought this up to Seth. He's like, yeah, I know that. Every time we go around the damn lake. It's 71 miles. If you're going to go straight across the lake, 71 miles from Rochester to Belleville. It's 74 miles Rochester to Syracuse. We are closer to Belleville than we are to Syracuse.
Thank you for that geographical lesson, Gino. You know what we need? We need a boat that can take us across the lake in record time. Like,
yeah,
if we could just get...
That's a great idea.
I know. We should just... If somebody would just, somebody with deep pockets, invest in maybe the city, invest in a ferry or something that can get us across the lake in the span of, 2 hours maybe, so that we can enjoy our friends north of the border in Belleville who are actually closer to us than our friends east of us in Syracuse.
But what would you call that ferry? Just going to be a ferry. You call it the Furious Ferry? You would
No,
call
I
it
think, what makes this ferry special is you think ferry, you think kind of like slow trudging along, No, this ferry's got to have wheels, man. I want this thing to move. I want it to have some balls. We're going to call it the fast ferry, Gino. What do you think if we got a fast ferry and we used it to go to, and by the way, the Canadians, they love coming to America. They'll absolutely come back and hang out in our fine city. Don't you think this would work? God, I'm a genius. Where's Danger 2024?
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's funny, like I'm looking at our producer helping us out here today while you're being gone, Bo Jackson. He's new to town. You have no idea what the joke is here at Bo. Like go up and look at we have a lot of things that we did right in this town. That's not one of them.
Okay.
No, it's not one of them. Don't bring up the word ferry to anybody in this town. Anyhow, Bo, thank you for your help today, bud.
Absolutely.
But between Bo and Derek the pizza dude today,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's stepping up to help keep the sports bar open on a day where we're certainly stretched a little bit thin, Gino. So we can't thank Bo and Derek enough.
Yeah, shots we got coming up here in the sports bar as the Sabres in action tonight. Now, this is interesting. Like, what do you do if you're Kevin Adams and Hockey Canada goes, we really want one of your players? If I'm Kevin Adams, let's say, go to the Sun, go away. But we'll go into this story with Zach Benson here, who is, of course, remaining with the Sabres. We'll give you the latest hot stove news and notes. And, women's basketball, something to pay attention to here tonight.
Surprise your loved ones this holiday season with the gift of self-care by giving them a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte. A gift card allows that special someone to indulge with one of their signature spa treatments, bask in their salon's services, and treat themselves to the many luxurious products in the spa at the Del Monte's boutique. Visit them at the spa at the Del Monte or purchase a gift card instantly at delmontespa.com. Happy holidays from the spa at the Del Monte. Stand by for a round of shots next. Last call coming up as well. And you can pull up a stool on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4FAN. Danger and Battaglia, the sports bar on the Fan Rochester.
Has been issued for Buffalo Bills linebacker Von Miller. Miller is accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. This allegedly happening at Miller's home in Dallas yesterday. The Buffalo Bills and the NFL have both issued statements saying that they are aware of the situation. Week 13 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's Dallas and Seattle down in Big D. The Arizona Cardinals today waiving tight end Zach Ertz. We have our first ever Monday Night Football game that's been flexed. Week 15 out is Patriots-Chiefs, in Seahawks and Eagles. We've got Sabres hockey tonight here on The Fan. The team down in St. Louis, our coverage begins at 7 o'clock. The Rochester Americans up in Belleville Friday and Saturday. The Rochester Nighthawks season, that begins Saturday night. Blue Cross Arena, Calgary, the opponent. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
You can't see it because we don't have the video stream set up in the cave yet.
Yeah, what do we do?
What? Well, I'm
what are you planning? Like, scheming. You're going to be like, you're going to be like the tattoo guy doing the show in Florida the whole time. Hey,
that's the plan. Yeah. Long term.
Okay,
you can't see it. You mentioned the Nighthawks. I'm wearing my new Rochester Nighthawks T-shirt today.
Nice.
I might be battling COVID, but I'm looking damn good doing it, Gino. That's all I'm going to put out there here as we head into shots in the sports bar.
I hope that they have some of that Nighthawks hazy IPA when we go to Three Heads.
Shared some of that on Thanksgiving. It was a massive hit. So fresh, so clean. It was so good. Everybody loved it. It was such a killer.
Yeah, and should have been the general manager, should have been one of the players, should have been somebody from the team actually having the first taste. No, it was you, Mike Danger. Do you feel guilty about that?
I didn't have the first taste. I mean, there are guys far better than I and have more fine palates working there, the brewmasters and everybody there that do great work.
Of course, the first ones, but we were the first ones on site. I thought they would have had this big ceremony, and here we go, and no, it was actually you just throwing them back.
Well, I'll wear that. I guess I'll wear that badge of honor, and we'll move forward. And know that if you do enjoy an IPA, you can't do much better than the Nighthawks IPA that they put out there for Friday Football Talk Live a couple of weeks ago when we were there at Three Heads, and you'll be looking for that when you're taking in the Nighthawks, when you're taking in the Amerks at Blue Cross Arena.
Zach Benson is going to be in the Sabre lineup again tonight. Why? Well, let's be honest. He's a top 6 forward on this team currently, the way he's playing, which is exactly the reason why GM Kevin Adams should just simply say no to Team Canada, as Team Canada has the desire to pluck Benson away from the Sabres for the annual World Juniors that are coming up. Oh my gosh, December's tomorrow. The end of next month. The Sabres tonight look to make it 2 in a row. They're at St. Louis, 8 o'clock for the puck drop here on The Fan.
And I think this happened, I think it was last week while I was off, but you and I probably had the exact same sentiment. When he scored, the way he scored, you have to pick your jaw up off the ground, and you're like, oh yeah, I know that he's still a kid, and I know that he doesn't have the size of some of these guys that he's playing against. When you watch the NHL, the way I've been watching the NHL, especially the last couple of days, you just see these are grown ass men just out there beating the hell out of each other on a nightly basis. And then you got a kid that's fresh-faced like Zach Benson, 18 years old, out there trying to compete. And actually, in my case, Connor Bedard for the Blackhawks doing the same kind of thing. We didn't talk any Connor Bedard the last couple of days, did we, Gene?
No. Dan Drummond was laying down the law yesterday where they'll talk about Connor Bedard and
we don't have to.
We're not talking about the mom's trip or anything like that.
No, we can let sleeping dogs lie on that one, Gino, and just keep moving on here.
This is your team. That's kind of embarrassing.
It's a dark cloud over them constantly. I just can't get over it.
While the baseball world is fixated on where Shohei Ohtani will go, and if you missed it earlier, we were joined by our buddy Jim Riley, and he says, yeah, that report is true. 3 finalists, Dodgers, Cubs, and Blue Jays, but then kind of saying, hey, look, somebody could jump in. Things can change, of course. There's another free agent from Japan that is drawing serious interest. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is 25. He's been in the Pacific League. He's been their MVP for 3 seasons. He's the real deal. The Yankees seem to be pulling all the stops here to get this guy, as they, previously, had already set aside the number 18. Now, come to find out, in Japan, the number 18 in baseball has come to signify who is the team's top pitcher. The Mets are also involved in the bidding for Yamamoto, but the number 18 for the Mets, that's already been retired, worn by Darryl Strawberry.
That's a deal breaker. Sorry, Gino. Your Mets aren't going to get Yamamoto because he can't get his number. I didn't know that 18 was associated with or signifies a team's top pitcher. It makes me think, like, every time, like, there are numbers, obviously, that are synonymous with the greatest players of all time, right? Like, nobody wears 99 because you can't. When you wear 23, you better be able to back it up, right? I'm trying to think if there are other numbers like that where it's like, oh, you're going to wear that number, you better be able to play.
Or, nobody wears number 32 in Buffalo, but it's a different reason.
Well, if Orenthal would stop killing people, then maybe somebody could. Allegedly.
Other baseball news, SNY's Andy Martino reporting the Yankees and the Padres have exchanged names in regards to a Juan Soto trade. Very interesting. The Mets sign a former Yankee. Okay, so the Mets may not end up with Yamamoto, but they get Luis Severino. 1 year, $13 million. The Reds sign former Padre and Fordham grad Nick Martinez, 2 years, $26 million.
Yeah, you might not get the top prize, Gina, but congratulations. You can now cut a fillet with those steak knives you get for signing Severino on a 1 year deal.
That's fine. It's like, Bo, that's not funny, Bo. Finally, Angel Reese returning to the lineup tonight for LSU women's basketball. Reese hasn't played since being benched on November 14th. That was a game against Kent State. She's missed the last 4. Head coach Kim Mulkey wouldn't say if Reese is going to start tonight or come off the bench. Well, the coach hasn't said too much as to why the suspension happened, other than an analogy of liking this to disciplining your kids. Tigers taking on Virginia Tech in a rematch of last year's Final Four.
Now, when this happens in college athletics, as it's happening here with the LSU women's basketball team, we're okay with it, right? Like, it's when we see professionals and professional coaches and athletes getting benched for like nonsense, like we saw with Sean McDermott and James Cook a couple of weeks ago, and all the hey, you fumbled the ball, you better sit there and think about it, young man. We're okay with what Mulkey's doing here, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody's going to mess with Kim Mulkey. I don't think I want to mess with Kim Mulkey here. But if there's reports that it has to do with grades, and I guess that still is a thing, Danger. Like,
it should be.
But to your point, now with name, image, and likeness, like, they're kind of professionals, are they not? If you're getting paid, and then you can lose minutes, and then you can go to the portal and go somewhere else. So it's a different world there. But you bring up a good point here. Like, where is the line when it comes to discipline? And I think Kim Mulkey, the star of LSU basketball, is not Angel Reese. It's Kim Mulkey.
That's right, and we should all follow her advice. Can I get cart one there, Bo?
Yep.
We should all follow Kim Mulkey's advice.
They need to dump the COVID testing. Wouldn't it be a shame to keep COVID testing and then you got kids that end up having test positive or something and they don't get to play in the Final Four? So you need to just forget the COVID test and let the 4 teams that are playing in each Final Four go battle it out.
Let me tell you, Gino, where would we be right now if I just forgot the COVID testing? I would be right there infecting everybody. I would be right there with you. Just spraying germs everywhere.
You cannot blame it on me this time. Did we find the culprit who gave this to you?
Nope. No, I mean, look, I think you're going to see a lot of people kind of get under the weather here or find themselves with COVID. The holidays just happened, right? We all got together. I mean, got together with my family on Thanksgiving. We went to the mall the next day, and the busiest shopping day of the year. We put ourselves through that. So who knows where I could have picked it up? But or I just went for a long run and I put myself over the top and had this thing lurking. Who knows, man? I mean, but where would we be? Yeah, maybe we should stop the COVID testing like Kim Mulkey suggests.
We have time. We haven't done last call the last couple days, Danger. So, like, this is the time when we could do last call here.
Well, then let's do that. We'll do last call next. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326 to rifle off your take before we close up shop next in the sports bar and let you know about tomorrow's show on the way here on the Fan Rochester. Now, as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. It is Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. A wide range of betting options as well, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. You've got Week 13 getting underway tonight in Prime, so you can check that out as well. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, to kick off the NFL season with me on FanDuel. FanDuel.com/Mike. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. It expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Hey, we got Sabres hockey for you tonight on The Fan. 8 o'clock puck drop. That'll be the Sabres taking on the Blues. They're in St. Louis tonight, looking for 2 in a row after kind of snuck up and surprised the Rangers earlier this week, Gino. Looking forward to that action. And, of course, when we talk Sabres in the sports bar, we always want to bring the best and brightest. We'll bring in Paul Hamilton tomorrow afternoon to talk about it.
Last call is for you here on The Fan, 866-4326, 866-4326. I just said that. 866-4FAN. Danger in the cave. I'm here in High Falls. Matt in the city calling us. He's first up. Matt, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys? I've called the past few weeks delivering some emotional takes. I'm sort of changing gears this week a little bit, but I'm remaining emotional. Something a little different for the sports bar. I want to issue a public plea to Syracuse basketball to be relevant this year. If that's okay with you guys. We've had so much mediocrity in Central New York and Western New York sports this season that I need this team to be relevant this year. So here I am on, November 30th, before the meat of the season starts. You got Virginia this weekend. I'll throw out a masterstroke take. I think they'll win that game. I need them to be relevant this year. So that's what I got.
All right. Well, who's your baseball team, Matt?
Yankees. Jesus.
All right. Well, listen. You're going to be fine. Look, you should be happy. Like if they trade for Soto.
What if this is just our lot in life, man? What if this is karma just telling us, hey, these are the choices you've made, and this is where you are, and you will be cursed with mediocrity for the rest of your days.
So I think karma is happening because it's funny. One of my mottos, one of my sarcastic mottos in life is that I strive for mediocrity. I set expectations low. Right.
That's right.
Strive for mediocrity every day. Keep expectations manageable. And I think that karma is catching up to me and just issuing punishment in the sporting world. We can't have anything nice. Living in Western New York with what it is, no seasons, that whole thing. Karma.
Thank you.
I always like to subscribe to expect more, accept less. But I can't really keep saying that as much as I used to say it when I was younger and I had all this energy and this long, like now it's like, this will be fine. Whatever. Expect more, accept less. What? Slow down there, Mr. Ambition. What are you talking about? No, we're going to manage expectations. That's the secret to happiness in life.
Yeah, like the championship we have is thanks to Jim Boeheim. That's actually Syracuse's.
Yikes.
2003 is a long time ago. Did anybody realize that?
Yikes.
My daughter is born in 2003. She's going to be having a drink next year legally.
Oh, are we celebrating that, Gino? Are we going out? Are we taking her out for? Are we getting her a box of wine for her 21st? What's the plan? You got to be thinking about it.
She's always 7 years old in my eyes, dude. And don't tell me you don't look at your daughters any differently.
I'm looking forward to the day where my daughter says, "Dad, let's go out and get a cocktail." I don't know that she'll ever say that to me, but at least we could share. Maybe we could someday share a cold one, maybe a win or two. That would be a lot of fun. I feel the same way.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Tomorrow on the show, Paul Hamilton, who is in St. Louis tonight, and he will be in Raleigh tomorrow. As that is kind of where the Sabres will be holding over until their game. As we will be talking to Paul, as the Sabres actually home Sunday night too against Nashville, about Devin Levi, some other stuff, and we'll try to get a Buffalo Bills guest on here too. Danger is I'm sure we're going to have developments over the next 24 hours here in regards to Von Miller.
Yeah, again, just in case you're just joining us and hadn't heard, lots doing with Von Miller in Dallas, and it all centers around a warrant for his arrest and a charge of assaulting a pregnant woman, his pregnant girlfriend, which is a third-degree felony, and Miller has yet to turn himself in to authorities there in Dallas. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us in the Sports Bar. We're back again starting tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock here on The Fan Rochester. And stand by for more CBS Sports Radio before we get to the Sabres in St. Louis at 8 o'clock tonight on The Fan.